All right, welcome Merrimack. Today is the December 18th Board of Commissioners meeting.
Go, Ken.
Public participation is offered by webinar, and you can always go to today's agenda on the mvdwater.org website, and there's a Zoom link there so you can watch live. Or it's typically replayed on Merrimack TV cable channel 6. As well as the Merrimack TV website at a later date. So I'll call a meeting to order at 5:01 and we'll rise to do the Pledge of Allegiance now. Pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, great. So we got 3 commissioners here in the room, myself, Ken Ayers, Aaron Clement, I couldn't think of your last name. And we have John Lyons joining us at home. Can you just confirm where you're calling in from, zooming in from, John?
25 Windsor Drive.
All right, good. And Wolf Von Sean is under the weather, so he's excused for the evening. So we'll start. First item on the agenda is the a couple of things, the supply source discussion with Underwood Engineers. So Keith Pratt, you got the floor.
Okay, I had to find the mute button. And I hopefully Peter will be joining. I believe he will be. I see Lynette's here already too. So but I'll start, and he was going to be prepared to speak to kind of where we are with the design of the preliminary design of the 2 projects that we're involved with. So I thought I'd give you, there's Peter, good. I thought I'd give you a quick overview of reminder of what we did, what our findings are so far. I have at least two, maybe 3 questions that we want to pose to you to get some guidance for next steps. And then Peter can show you the design a little bit, and then we can have some discussion. Do you want me to give you a little bit of a background history on why we're here and what we're doing? Would that be helpful for some folks?
I think so, yeah.
Going back to, probably even 2010, Merrimack Village District has always been in a supply search mode, predating that too. And one of the things the district asked us to do was develop what the supply options were and to look at them from a cost point of view and help guide the district in financial decisions. That is, what are the most cost-effective and reliable ways to develop additional source, whether it's a new groundwater source, enhancing an existing source, a connection to Pennachuck, connection to Manchester, kind of all things were on the table. Even surface water was looked at a high level. And those reports were first updated in 07, first developed in 07 and 2010. And, it's what prompted certain capital projects going forward. Mitchell Woods was in there, treating 7-8. A lot of these things came out of that. And then COVID hit, but I'm actually, PFAS hit is really what I meant to say. And that changed the course of our capital program. But it didn't change the need to get additional supply. So the board asked us to update. You had checked off a lot of the supply projects that were available to you, and it really came down to a remaining few. And the board asked us to update those update those in 2022. And there's a brief tech memo, and I think it's dated June or July of 2022, which is guiding what we're doing for the next steps. And basically it said you have 3 remaining options in front of you that are kind of no longer are they low-hanging fruit, because all the projects we have in front of us are complex and expensive. But we have 3 that were available to you. One was the Pennachuck connection, a wholesale arrangement. One was advance and complete the permitting and putting online of Mitchell Woods. And the third was an artificial recharge project to enhance and increase the yield at wells 4 and 5. And we had developed a table of costs, which was presented to you in a chart form. And I think it's in your packet. I'm not sharing at the moment, but it's the one that looks like that. And it's the one that has the listed projects in it. I can share if you'd like, but I do know I think it's in your packet.
No, Keith, I think we just gave him the updated one.
Yeah, this is the updated one, right? This is the one you sent to Jim. So it has I think it is. Is that right? No?
No, it's the one with just the 3 options, Keith. Remember, we got rid of the
That's in here too.
Yeah, this is the one you want, because the one with the 3 options, Peter, I'm gonna ask them to toss, because talking to Kyle this morning, they didn't get updated. So,
they didn't. Okay, yeah, okay.
yeah. So you should have got this chart, and then you got a chart. What Peter's referring to is a chart that just listed the three projects that were available to you. This chart, I'm going to have to ask you to set aside because the costs didn't get updated on that. But this is the one I want you looking at. And there's 3 projects on there that are still available to you, really, that are most cost effective. The first one.
Can you just direct us to
Can you put that on the screen?
probably Jill? Because like this is a 114-page packet. So by the time I
Okay,
find it, you're going to be done.
You're on page 6 of the packet.
All right, hang on then. Let's see.
And if it would be helpful, I can share if you'd prefer, or
It's
just.
not-
Yeah,
it's
can-
not
in here.
No.
Oh, it's
I'm
not
gonna
in the
make him
paper
a
one.
presenter. It's not a paper.
Oh. All right, I got it in a digital
Yeah.
digital.
Yeah, I looked at it.
Okay.
Do you want me to share?
Yeah, because we don't all have it in front of us, so it'd probably be helpful if you could find it.
Okay, easy
Okay.
enough.
Yeah.
If I've got permissions, I will do that here.
You should now.
Okay. Still says no.
Make him,
Post is.
Big code.
Did I click? I might have clicked Nick.
Still can't. Oh, there we go. Okay. That was the button.
Good.
Okay. Sorry about that, but can you see?
yes.
Okay, good. All right. So this is the summary of all the projects that we looked at for you going back 10 years. To orient yourself to this project, this does not list the capital project costs. We have those listed elsewhere and we'll share them. But what it did was it normalized them, because every project in front of you did not have the same yield.
Yeah.
Withdrawal yield. So this was an attempt to say, on a per gallon basis, from both capital cost and operating costs, what was the lower cost option? And so we categorized them as to emergency sources, redundant sources, and new sources. And new sources was defined as if I was increasing the yield. That's why the ones in the blue were more important, because they're the ones who are actually adding water to our supply, available supply. And we had, we had at times removed some of the projects that we have done, and treating 7 and 8 necessarily didn't add supply, it just did water quality. So they didn't make this chart, but you had it as options here: Pennachuck connections, Manchester connections, AR at 4 and 5, which I mentioned, and activating Mitchell Woods. We looked at them at various ways, with or without PFAS, for example, or
Yeah.
And so what we did here is, if you looked at the first one listed here, which is Pennachuck, or maybe I can, show you this one. That was a wholesale arrangement with Pennachuck, and there was no capital investment to that. So you were getting, from a capital point of view, 10 cents per gallon or 10 cents per 1,000 gallons as a capital investment to do this, but a very high O&M cost, because it's all O&M going out. So that's why the orange bar was high, low capital, high orange, and the gap between them was big. So we had all our options laid out that way. The other two we're down to is just AR and Mitchell Woods. Back when we did this last time, there was a very high capital investment to to AR, but you would have a good, low operating cost. So we were getting, it really looked better from an operating cost point of view, even though there was a big capital investment. So it was on our radar to pursue. Mitchell Woods was the other one. Back then, based on what Emery and Garrett knew, the capital cost was a pretty high, a little bit higher per 1,000 gallons. And there was a little bit more involved with the operations there because we have chem feed now. And so that's why that gap was bigger. So from the three available to you, if we were just looking at capital costs, Penachuk was low, AR was middle, and Mitchell was high. What we did last year, about a year and a half ago, is we said, look, we need time to advance AR and Mitchell Woods to make sure we're making the right investment. So we got lined up with Penachuk, did a 3-year wholesale arrangement, knew it was temporary, or at least planned it to be temporary. We had some renewals in there in case we wanted to extend it. And then we would advance these two projects to get a better sense for the yields. We know more now what are the costs, because costs are going crazy, and then compare them again. So that's what we did this last few months, is to double check the cost and the yields. To do that, we went back to Penachuk. We found out, we talked to them about PFAS, new rules, new limits. What are they going to do? How would it impact Merrimack? And so we were able to estimate now, really there's no capital investment still on that one, but we're now looking at, we're going to see operating costs go up due to PFAS and some other things that they would have to deal with. So we'd see those as well. So this orange bar back then kind of goes up to what we thought here on a 20-year present worth. For AR, it went up here. So it rose too, and mostly that one's due to you can see it, capital cost went up based on our estimates today. And then Mitchell Woods really went up, and that's mostly because it was a seasonal supply, right? We know that Mitchell Woods was limited in its long-term yield. In fact, if you take its 300,000 gallons, if you take its total permitted capacity annual withdrawals, it actually works out to 85 gallons a minute, which is pretty low. And that's what this is based on. So that's why from a cost per gallon, it's pretty high. Back when we originally did this, Emery and Garrett thought there'd be more sustainable yield out of it. There's actually less. But it has that value to be available to you in the summer peaks. So we didn't want to discount it. It's still a good source. You can run it at 300 gallons a minute for 3 months through the summer and take your peak. So it's still a good source. It's just on a per gallon basis is relatively expensive. So, and we also did it at, because Dawn asked us to look at this, and I think it was a good idea. We did it at 50 years. And Dawn, it did make a big difference on the 20-year on the Penachuk. Didn't make that much difference on the low O&M cost options. Went up a little bit here.
Yeah.
So what we're finding is capital costs continue to go up. What we're finding is that Penachuk is still probably the lowest cost option. If you start looking at it at 50 years, maybe you can think about it differently. Certainly on a 20-year present worth.
Yeah.
Which is normally what we do. It's the lowest cost option. So we still see the same ranking. So there's other factors that we have to think about when making a decision here. Do we like that we don't have to make a capital investment in Penachuk? Do we just want to continue to pay the operating costs because there's no capital cost to it? Or do we want to continue to have our own supplies and meet our own supply needs with our wells and additional assets? And the challenge with that is there's capital investments. Obviously, Mitchell Woods is going to be a capital investment, which is on your capital plan, and AR is going to be a capital investment to do that. Mitchell Woods was estimated in your last time at about $4 million. We still think that's a good planning number. AR has two parts to it. We think it's somewhere between 8-10 million to 14. And let me explain that. We had estimated 7 million previously to just serve the needs of the AR, no planning for the future. We think that number is probably just a little low now. It's probably closer to 8 to 10 because this intake into the river is probably more complex than previously estimated, or costs continue to go up. But if you wanted to plan for the future, put in a pipe that was larger and plan for something bigger, then the investment would be larger upfront, even though we're really only using it for AR. So our take on this is it's time to have a discussion with you. We're about 60% through our budget and scope on this project. This was a perfect time to stop and engage you to sort of have some policy discussions on how we wanted to go forward, and what decisions we wanted to make. There's a lot of advantages, disadvantages. There's a lot of challenges and opportunities with each of these options. So it's not as black and white as it used to be. So hopefully I gave it a good snapshot executive summary. We can ask some questions now. Peter's able to walk you through the drawings, which I think you may also have if you'd like, but I'll pause for a second, Dawn, to take some guidance from you on what you want to do
Yeah.
right now.
I guess the question that we, I think you and I discussed or emailed about or spoke, I can't remember, a couple weeks ago was, when you contacted Don Ware, you said that they were expecting a 5% increase in rate. But then if they had to install additional treatment, because the EPA MCL for PFOA is going to drop to 4. So that was going to entail a 5% increase. But then there could be a 15% increase if they needed to do a little bit more PFOA treatment because they weren't
No.
sure. What?
No.
Yeah.
Sort of. What the way I understood what he said, because I asked the question with the new limits, what are you going to do? How much do you see it's going to, what do you see it impacting Merrimack's wholesale rate? He said 5%. And what he said was because they're not at this point planning to build a plant like Merrimack did. They feel they don't need to. They're going to ramp up their operational costs. That is, change carbon out of their beds at a much higher rate or frequency to meet the limits. That's their plan. They think it'll work. So it's their O&M is going to go up, but there's zero capital costs. Well, yeah, there's zero capital costs. So it's just more O&M. So he told us that would be a 5% impact. If there was a treatment plant they had to build, it would be different. But that's their plan right now. It came to be 15% because there was something else that was unrelated to PFAS, Don, and I can't remember what it was, but he told us to plan on a 15% volumetric rate increase. That's not the fixed side. That's just the volumetric side.
So what is reflected in that graph with the $59 per 1,000 gallons?
A
The 20-year.
15%,
That is
15% volumetric increase on your rate, on your volumetric rate for a 20-year window. That's
Okay.
what that line is.
Okay. And then the upper one, the 105 for the 50 years is still 15%. It's just over 50 years, right?
Yes, exactly.
All right. And the numbers we're seeing on the artificial recharge from originally, the last time was 2981 going up to 63. That's just the more refined cost analysis that you guys did.
This one is two things. Yes, it's more refined capital costs. This higher bar is because we were planning on putting a larger pipe in the river for the future. That is, if you ever went to surface water, that is, you ever wanted to do something more significant. So that represents a big pipe you need in the future, but not today. Because of our refinement of costs just to serve your needs for AR, I don't know, you'd be somewhere in between what you thought it was to that. So you're going to be somewhere in here for that.
Right, because we did discuss that at our last meeting. I think we were a little reluctant to proceed with a larger intake out of the river without really having a plan to use it at this point. So it might be there for a little bit lower than you're representing in the graph.
Right, it would if that was the case. Yep.
Right,
Yeah, we did look at that a little bit, Don.
okay,
Yeah, different option. And also, just to answer your question a little bit on Pennachuck, the extra 10% was if they were gonna merge with the Hudson system,
oh,
right?
yeah,
Right. That's the other 10% was their
Was it
possible.
Hudson merge or a
Oh.
PEU?
Yeah, it was PPW/PEU and PAC, occurred.
Okay,
So,
yeah,
but it was just, if a merger occurred, then he said the volumetric rate would go up about 10%. So then if you're taking your 5 and add to 10, that's 15%. So that's what they were saying. The merger was going to be an additional 10% if that went through.
okay. So that's what these numbers are representing then. I just wanted to kind of clarify that, the
Yes.
96 up there that you're seeing, or I guess you guys can't really see them anyways, but so
Yeah.
so you're looking to see which one of these we want to try to pursue, I guess. What also came up, and I see that you guys have a engineering service request, is for taking a look at well 6 as well to see what's possible over there. And I guess based on that, my personal preference right now is I'm not ready to move forward on warrant articles on these 3 options, one of these 3 options, or any of these 3 options this year, or in the next year, I should say, is in March, right? So I'd first want to see what the well 6 analysis yields that we just asked you for at the last meeting, and that you provided for a proposal for this meeting. So that's my opinion. I know, John, you had your hand up earlier. Did you want to comment on something? I figured I'd let everybody else talk now.
I just had the question, to any of these get us to where we want to be volume wise, and we're comparing capital costs and operating costs, but we don't know how much water
How much
these things are
volume
going to
we-
yield.
Right.
Well,
I agree, and wasn't for the artificial recharge, didn't we have to go to the next step and run a temporary water main and do testing before we even knew what it was gonna do?
yes,
Yep, you do.
Wasn't the Mitchell Woods, wasn't that? Emmett say like that it wouldn't be like, it would be like emergency situation, it wouldn't be all the time.
Well,
Well,
be peak shaving, I guess, right, is the word we were using on, like, in the middle of the summer when our demand is up in
Yeah.
3 months, because like it shows over here for we could run it for 104 days at 300 gallons a minute, and that would give us our 45 million gallon a day cap. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it's just, that's what's on the chart, so that's what I'm assuming that implies. So 104
It
days
is.
really just a little over 3 months, right? And that's kind of in the middle of the peak demand. So we'd have all this infrastructure there that would really be only required for maybe 3 or 4 months out of in the
Yeah.
summer.
and correct me if I'm wrong, well 6, I know it's shut down because of other issues, but when it was running, it was a big producer, correct?
it was
Yeah, I understand. That was our largest producing well, if I'm not mistaken.
1,500 gallons a minute or something like that.
Really?
I think.
Yeah,
I mean,
Sorry.
I would like to, me personally, I would think where. Well, 6, it was a big producer. I mean, I would agree with, let's look into it, see if it's something
right.
over time, and if we need to put, some kind of treatment, or if we could tie into 7 and 8.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I know there was some question about what its original water quality was, and I don't know that we really have a good representation, because we've only done like shorter term pump tests more recently.
You don't know what's gonna pull for PFAS?
there was some question about whether we had records of the old groundwater quality. I'm talking about iron and manganese. We know it's got PFAS. It would need a PFAS plant, PFAS treatment. But I guess we don't know if iron and manganese was an issue there. And I know
There's
the
some data and we pulled them back out, but we did with Emory and Garrett, this was closely looked at because at that time we were looking at blending with 7 and 8 to reduce the volume we pull out of it and try to blend it with 7 and 8. So there's some water quality data from those long-term pump. They weren't long-term, but I think they were a couple weeks pump tests. And so we know there's iron and manganese on the front, on the, getting close. And Lynette probably remembers better than I do, but it's something we have to look at. Sodium chloride's present, kind of it's not where we'd like to see it. And then there's the VOCs and the dioxin as well. So it's got its issues, but what we know and recognize is that, statewide, these things are being treated for, at least the, VOCs and dioxin. There's precedent now that we can treat for it.
Right. And I think your proposal that we have it later in the packet here covers all of those research topics so that you guys will look into that and see, because I guess Wolf was very interested in seeing where well 6 goes. I think it's prudent that we investigate that further before making a decision. So I think instead of having these 3 options, well 6 would become a 4th. And then we'd evaluate all 4 of those and potentially pick one once we know a little bit more refined information on well 6. I think we're refining the information on the 3 options here with Pennachuck, artificial recharge, and Mitchell Woods. I think we need to bring well 6 up to a comparable level to see what that would entail, what kind of treatment is involved, what are the rough costs for treatment, and then normalize that with respect to its yield. Now, as far as the yield goes, to get back to John's question, I think well 6 obviously has the bigger yield potential, withdrawal potential. And then the next one was, well, Pennachuck, we can basically, was that based on a certain, no, this is normalized. So that's, in our wholesale agreement, we can request more or less water or whatever we need, basically, I think.
Yeah,
right?
this is based on you maxing out the use of it at 1 million gallons a day or whatever. I can't remember the number, but it was,
right.
yeah.
Because right now we're at 250,000 gallons a day on average with a 500,000 peak.
Yeah.
And we could, so the capacity at the Pennachuck pump station is 1 million gallons a day, right?
Yeah.
So that's what the pump station without having to do capital improvements would handle.
Right.
Which is why there's no capital improvement number on that graph for that, because we already have the capacity is there. So I think the least amount of increase would probably be Mitchell Woods. And that seems to be the higher cost number.
Well, it's the highest cost per 1,000 gallons. It's probably the, next to Pennachuck, it's the lowest capital investment though. It's a lot lower capital investment to AR.
Right.
So that's at about, 4.5 is what we're projecting on that.
And
I just wanted to go back to John's question. I think I think he was asking what's our target, right? What do we need? And on the capital plan, we had identified the 3, but we knew we may not need all 3. We're just trying to find the one we want to pursue to meet our needs, whether it's peak shaving or long-term or whatever. But it's always been targeted that we needed 500,000 gallons a day average with a peak of just under 1 million. So those were the targets. They've sort of been our targets for a long time. And Pennachuck got us there while we figured out what was best to do going forward.
So we need 1 million because we have to manage to the peak. And Mitchell gives us 300 during the seasonal period that we're probably going to need it.
well,
AR,
that's
we don't.
just so you got the numbers right, that's 300 gallons a minute, which is 432,000 gallons a day. So it's almost 500,000 gallons.
Thank you.
Oh, and that's only for 210 days, or whatever it says here.
I hope it's the right 210 though. I mean, it's August and July, right?
I'm sorry, 104 days. So it's really only for like, over the summer. But that's really when we need all the water. We only use like barely 2 million gallons a day.
Okay, but Mitchell's not gonna do it by itself. It only gets us to 450, it only gets us to 450 of the desired million.
Right. Right.
So the capital cost would need to be added to something else that gets us to the million to be compared to anything else.
Right, which could be phased in but you're right, if we're looking for that million, we're only halfway there with Mitchell Woods. I
And
think,
there's no way in God's green earth, I believe that's gonna be PFAS free for the rest of its life either.
yeah, so that cost would go up. And just so everybody knows that source is inside the groundwater management zone for St. Cobain. However, I would imagine it would have to be in violation of an MCL in order to get them to be on the hook for paying for PFAS treatment.
For how long?
That's another
Well,
question. A
and
5-year
that would-
deal won't cut it this time.
And that would be years out from the time you actually incur the cost based on the speed of legal system.
Right.
So I don't love it. I think you're right to want to see what's going on with well 6 and artificial recharge. Do we not even have an estimate on that?
Capital
As far as-
cost?
No, the water,
The increase in water availability of water withdrawal we could yield from that.
Yes. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We do. And see if I can find it while you're talking.
There's a
And it
couple
comes from Emery and Garrett's, and it is an estimate. And it was designed to sort of max out the treatment plant. That was designed so that we could increase the yield out of the wells to meet what you now have as ultimate capacity at the treatment facility. It doesn't do it. I don't remember the exact numbers, John, but it does not do it alone either.
Okay.
And it's 20, that target number is really, it was a future number. It's kind of planning for your, 10 years out.
We'd actually have to put AR and Mitchell Woods together to see what the actual impact is, because we'd have to do both. If well 6 is not an option. So that kind of makes it a pretty easy decision for me. I don't see either of these as stellar investments.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's very expensive for the amount of water we're increasing.
well, and I don't really want to bet on artificial recharge until we do the second step of, the pilot study. Because I think until we see that,
We're talking
Yeah.
about
Like,
running a
what if we-
temporary water main from the river to the plant. How much is that gonna cost for the study?
I just feel like we know what can come out of Mitchell Woods. But for artificial recharge, until we do that study, we're just, I feel like we need harder numbers before we.
Yeah, I think Jamie's plan was to use our own distribution water to do the pilot test. It was like a real world loading test.
I'm
Where you
not
dig-
opposed. Okay, if it's not gonna cost that much money, if it's a good investment, I'm not opposed. I just feel like it sounds like it's gonna cost a lot of money. And I don't think Emery and Garrett is gonna lowball their estimate on the yield by a significant amount. If it's only 500,000 and we're looking for 1 million, that's a long shot that the pilot study is gonna show that big of a difference. Those are the concerns in my mind, and I would say, that they could be overcome, but we'd have to take a look at that.
So there
more
was
specifically.
another level of effort on artificial recharge, if I'm remembering correctly. Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, but the vessels that are there at wells 4 and 5, if they were filled to maximum capacity of GAC, couldn't they actually handle 1,000 gallons per minute? Which
Yeah,
I
that's
think that's like 1.4 million gallons a day, right? Times
Yeah.
1440.
That's what we are thinking, that would be probably the max you could get, yeah.
But that would entail us having to do a whole new source pump test application because the wells are only approved for, what is it, 870 peak gallons per minute now?
Yeah.
75.
And if we needed to go up to 1,000, we'd have to do another pump test to get to that point.
Yeah, I
Uh,
assume that if Emery and Garrett was gonna do that artificial recharge, that they would be looking at doing something to increase the permitted production volume of those wells.
Right.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't require any capital expense at the treatment plant because the tanks are already sized for 1,000 gallons a minute. We would just, when we swap out the media in the future, we'd have to put more media in there.
Probably have to redo your well pumps too. I mean, they were designed for peak of 870.
Yeah,
They're only, I mean, the permit now is like 425. So, right
Yeah,
now
and-
you're operating between 425 or 450 maybe and 625.
Yeah, 625 on our through the summer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
And-
if you added the plant, the design capacity of the plant was 870. If it ever went to artificial recharge, to add that in. So if you're going to then add on top of that to go to 1,000, you definitely need to replace the well pumps. I don't even know. I don't
then-
remember. Are the well pumps for 870 or are the
But
well
the-
pumps for 625?
But the bigger thing is not the well pumps, it's the VFDs. We gotta make sure that the well pumps do not, if we increase the capacity of the well pumps, it does not
Right.
exceed the VFDs because we don't have any more room in that.
Well, it's the drives and the
Yeah.
electrical service coming in too. And I remember we built in a little bit more extra on the service coming in. I just don't remember what it was for.
all right.
It should have been
Well,
designed for
for-
870. That's what I kept pushing that.
Right, right.
So I believe everything should be able to run at 870.
Yeah, I think it was slightly over designed because if we went with, putting a polishing system on there, that the head of the pumps were gonna have to increase a little bit,
Maybe
to
that's
get
what it
through
was.
that.
That's
then-
what we increased the size. for,
Right.
yeah.
But I think we sized for that, slight increase, which probably wasn't gonna increase the capacity of the VFDs.
Okay.
But I don't think necessarily if you went up to 1,000 gallons per minute, if the VFDs were not gonna become undersized.
Well, I mean, even if 870 to 1,000 is, I mean, that's pretty close. It's only what, 130 gallons a minute difference. That's not a substantial amount of water. So even if we kept 870 as the max that we would expect out there, I think that makes sense. But the numbers in the graph here are not based on 870, I don't think, right?
It's based on the increase, what we'd gain. And that's the number. I'd have to go back and look, but it's based
Oh,
on.
yeah. Right. Okay. So that kind of, I think that is already factored in here then from going up. I want to say the 870 is probably the cap that was used in this graph.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It might be,
That's kind of always been the basis. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what, when we were sizing 4.5, that's what EGGI was like, yeah, that 870, that's probably, if we ever had artificial recharge, that's what we think we could get out of it, early numbers, obviously, but
Yeah.
that's kind of been the target, so.
So I guess it sounds like we want to definitely pursue well 6, which is the
Yes.
proposal you have in front of us. The question is, in my mind, what do we want to have Underwood do with the rest of the 3 options? There's really not much more to pursue with Pennachuck, right?
No, and so maybe I can jump to what we were gonna suggest to help you. But
Okay.
what we found here is, other than capital costs changing and increasing, you keep chasing those as time goes on and capital costs go up. It really didn't change the challenges associated with them, or the advantages or disadvantages. They kind of remained the same. So the same story has been playing out, as even though costs are increasing. In other words, they rank the same. We said when we met before this meeting is, why don't we tell them to pause on this, because there's not a lot. We've advanced the design. There's more information, so you gain something. But it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense necessarily for us to finish this up, especially if we've got other sources we should be looking at. We can then pause on this,
Yeah.
maybe just do a quick tech memo just to end it. We can probably leave some money on the contract to either reprogram it to 6, or we actually have, Peter and I were looking back at some other contracts that we have with you that Jill sent some stuff to clean up to. And I think we're looking, there might be a few other places we could actually reprogram some money that we're under contract for that we don't need. So we could probably make it a soft thing for you. So our recommendation was to put a pause on this, at least maybe stop it until we get more information up on well 6, and then regroup.
That's actually what I was thinking exactly.
Okay.
I think
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. You brought it to a level that we kind of needed to adjust these numbers, and the numbers were adjusted. So now, we got to compare it to the well 6 and bring well 6 up to this level, I guess, and see, out of those 4, are there any that, merit proceeding with? And, I look at that Penachuk number, and we have kind of a flexibility there of asking for more if we need to, up to $1 million.
And I was going to say, to John's point, one of these projects doesn't do it alone. What we haven't spent time doing is, let's say we end up saying let's say we like Mitchell Woods, doesn't do it alone. It shaves our peaks, that helps us. But we could also, Don, downgrade the Penachuk agreement, right? If so,
Yeah.
you don't have to keep this volume of flow. You can go up or down to whatever you need.
Right.
So you may not have to have as much, commitment there if you've solved some of it internally.
Right. So this is probably going to need for us to, we had that 3-year bridge in mind. This might be adding a year or so onto that. But I don't see that as a problem.
No.
I mean, the only negative thing is all our wells, we're basically trying to treat in all our treatment plants to non-detect of all PFAS. We're pretty much doing that. We do have some leak through on some of the short chains in between the time that we change out the media, but that was part of our procedure that we came up with the 8-month. But I think, I'm pretty happy with the numbers in the distribution system. They're mostly non-detect pretty consistently. And I've been getting some positive feedback in the community about that. So, obviously, if we start using Penachuk a little bit more, we may have additional PFAS coming through, but it's good to hear them say that they're planning on proceeding with additional PFAS treatment on their end. So that should help bring.
They're just to be clear, I don't want to misstate what I said. They're just changing operations. So they're just doing more frequent change out. It's all operational. There's no additional treatment being proposed.
All right. Yeah. So, I mean, the fact of the matter, they're doing that to reduce the level of PFOA essentially in there. Because this is all stemming from the proposed MCL from EPA for PFOA at 4, correct? I think that's what's kind of driving the bus for Penachuk's additional treatment.
Yes.
The frequency of replacing the carbon, basically.
Yes.
So that should help bring the PFOA numbers in their water down, which would help if we're purchasing water from them to keep the whole MVD system down as well. So that's a good thing in my mind. That's going in the right direction, But I think we agree. If you guys, I don't know if you have to keep. John, you have any other thoughts? I know Ken and Erin are shaking their head to put everything else on hold and pursue well 6. Is that something you're on board with as well?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, after looking at this, I really am liking Mitchell Woods less and less, given the numbers and where they're at. I mean,
Yeah,
Me too.
it's
Mitchell
looking
Woods
like
is
a
like
really,
on the bottom.
yeah, really expensive thing for not a lot of payout.
I think Wolf was ready to throw it out in the handbasket last meeting as well, but
I think he was just throwing it on the floor, but no, we're done with that.
All
you
right.
know, so I guess we're not throwing it away, we're just shelving it.
Pausing, put a pause
Yeah,
on it.
I just remember
Yeah.
Jamie saying that it's got a short shelf life, it's gonna expire, what have you, and they'd
The
have to
permit did
apply for
ex-
something by such and such a date.
The permit
Yeah.
did expire, yeah, it
So
did.
I think we should probably let it expire if it's coming up right soon.
I thought we renewed something.
We did, we went through the process to get it renewed. I don't know how long it's.
Yeah, I don't remember if that's 5 years or if it's 2 years
okay.
or what the deal is, but. All right,
Okay,
I think, so, yeah, I guess we're all in consensus on that. I mean, you have any other thoughts, Ron, or anything? What do you think?
No, it makes sense. Maybe we can get something from Jamie in the meantime as well to do that pilot.
Yeah,
I think that's a key piece to the AR. as well.
AR, yeah, maybe if we were going to look at proceeding with something next, it would probably be looking at that pilot for AR, so.
I don't forget, what was the cost on the pilot? Is that already, that's already in the budget, something, right? Or is that,
I have to go back. I'm not.
I can't remember either.
We ever got I think we got roundabout numbers and if we ever got
I mean, if we can do the pilot without, having to do a warrant or anything like that, and, we can, I think it'd be interesting to
That's
find
true,
out.
yeah.
Cause I mean, I think that one, long-term with the surface water stuff, it has the potential, much more than Mitchell Woods makes me think, but
Think so too.
I also like that we have the Pennachuck interconnect so that we are not rushed into a situation we don't have to be.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. I feel better evaluating all the information that's available, and
Right.
well 6 just kind of came back into play at the last meeting, and
Right.
there's gonna be some other testing of monitoring wells by a butter out there or something that, so we're gonna see if there's any change in the water chemistry in the groundwater. So I think with that and the other scope of work that you guys have prepared for further investigating well 6. So is that on the agenda for you guys on here somewhere?
Well, we haven't given you a budget. We kind of gave you an outline scope. What we wanted to get from you is make sure we're capturing this. It was intended to, you
okay.
said it well, Don. It was intended to sort of advance anything new we can learn about options there to this level, to the levels we did these. If you wanted to pursue it, we just were going to give you some opportunities to make sure the scope was right. We can give you a scope for the next meeting for approval.
Yeah, because I did look, there was a scope prepared, it didn't have a price on it, so
No.
that was one of my
That's
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We just
That was
wanted to make sure we we're going down the right path with
Put a
the
number
scope. was. Yeah.
sure.
And what we were going to try to do is match that scope with some offsets. I mean, we can, give it to you as new money, but I think there's a couple things Jill and Underwood, Merrimack and Underwood will clean up for contracts. So we may have some places to reprogram monies that's already been committed if you'd like.
That would be great. Yeah, I do remember there were a couple other contracts that you guys had that looked like they were completed or nearing completion that might have still had some money in there. So
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
talking about repurposing some of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was basically my main question about, I didn't know if you were looking for us to authorize this tonight and you were going to throw a number out that we fill in the blank or something, but.
Yeah.
$5.
Yeah, I
Go
mean,
to the highest
I did look through the scope. I think everything is what it seems in order from what I figured out here, reading through it. I guess I would assume that would become like another bar chart, another bar on that chart with the
Yep.
capital and O&M, if you could get to that point on it, so we can make direct comparisons with the other 3 options.
Yeah, and what we'll do is, as Peter was pointing out, we're going to probably just to clean things up going forward. We're only going to show the current 3 options and 4th one. So we'll
Right.
probably shift over to that new chart to make it easier to follow. But yes, it'd be a new comparison on that chart.
Right, and then maybe the other thing that would be helpful is to just confirm what the gallons per day is that we would be increasing with each of these options, even if it's just like one number under each of the bar stacks or something in there.
Okay.
So that we know, artificial recharge is 430,000 gallons a day. Or no, I'm sorry, that would be Mitchell Woods. Whatever the delta was at artificial recharge, because it's unit cost, but it's also, we're chasing 1 million gallons a day, so that kind of needs to tell us how many of these options we're gonna need to actually implement to get to that point,
Yep,
So if you
understood.
can have that number on one chart, I think that would kind of provide us all the information in on one glance that we're looking for.
Yeah.
So anybody else have any questions on the that draft scope of work or anything else? All right,
So Dawn, on that one, we have scheduled, it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be either late next week or early the first week of January to go out there and do subsurface investigation for well 4. So we're gonna put that on hold so we don't spend that money. Is that correct?
for well 6?
No, for well 4, 5 AR, because part of our
Oh, oh,
scope
oh.
was to do borings and stuff like that to make sure, see what the soils were getting under the tracks and that type
Yeah,
of
we
stuff.
probably
So,
wanna hold on that.
And just till we hear about 6, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Unfortunately, it might
that-
kick you out into the middle of the winter.
No, is that, yeah, well, we're gonna come back next month with the contract for well 6, and then we gotta do the work. So it's gonna be end of the winter before we give any information to you. So that'll be all right. So,
Yeah, it's okay.
better than do it in
All
the
right.
spring.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, because
I
I
will-
think, at least I don't think I was prepared to put any of those 3 on the warrant.
Yeah.
This March anyways. Just because I don't have a level of comfort that any one of these is, or even 2 of them to pursue at the same time. I don't see, I see Penachuk being a better alternative than that. And maybe buying another year before we actually make a commitment,
Yep.
At least that's my thought, but. Yeah, all right, that makes sense. So if that's all, the other item on here and with Underwood was some action items on here, is there?
Actually, Dawn, can I go back to the AR? Did you want to
Sure.
see? So we had so what one of the big ticket items on that AR was just getting the sort of the straw into the river. And we did talk to Penachuk and we got some drawings of what they did and what their cost was. And
Okay,
it was just to get 2 pipes out into the river. And granted, they were 4-foot pipes, so they were big pipes,
Wow.
but it came back into a structure, and then they had a pipe going from that structure to their existing structure where the pumps were. That was it. Okay. So that was the only work that they did. So we still have to get pipes out there and one structure. And that was $6 million, 3 or 4 years ago. So, so if you're thinking about the pipes, it's like, yeah, they're 4-foot diameter pipes, but the material is peanuts compared to the $6 million, It's really just getting out there and getting that
oh, I see what you mean.
work area going and all this kind of stuff. So then the other option that we came up with is we did this over in Dover on a Bellamy Brook, and we had some sort of a structure on the edge of the river, and so it wasn't going out into the middle of the river type of thing for a permanent one. And we had some something on the side there that we are, and I have some pictures if you want to look at it of what we did there. And that was what Keith was mentioning as, possibly, the cost reduction item, is trying to go with a different type of intake, So, but I just want to let you know that was, Penachuk paid $6 million just for that little, just the intake and the structure.
And the big difference between the two is positioning yourself for the future or just serving the needs of the AR. And if the goal is to just
Yeah.
serve the needs of the AR, then you know, that riverbank side one is more appropriate.
So I thought, and I don't know if you're at this point yet. I thought the last meeting, we asked if there was any way to quantify what the difference in those costs would be. Whether we just stuck in one pipe for artificial recharge or two of them with bigger capacity to be used for a potential surface water treatment
Yeah,
plant.
I think
future.
if you went out into the middle of the river, I think it would be peanuts, you know, of additional cost for a second pipe, because you still gotta construct that area that you can work in, permitting and all that kind of stuff. You put one pipe in that, work area, you put two, it's the same thing. The difference, I think, is if we went to a different type of structure, the one, on the river bank compared to out in the middle of the river. And that's where we think you can save some money. But I think, if you're gonna go out to the middle of the river and put one pipe, you might as well put two, because, just getting out there is the toughest part.
Huh. Yeah, I do remember seeing on Pennachuck had to get permission from, I don't know, planning board or somebody, conservation commission or something. Several years ago, I remember watching on TV, there was a lot involved with that, bathymetric surveys of the contour of the bottom of the river and
Yep.
scour issues and making sure we weren't going to build up sediment where the intake was. So there was a lot of modeling. That's where a lot of the cost probably went to. It wasn't just the construction, it was the analysis, the modeling of all of
Well,
that.
yeah, the permitting was a lot. They did not have to go through an Army Corps because they were, updating, their existing one. But if we were putting a new one in there, then we would probably have to go through the Army Corps too. So
Okay.
that's an,
Wow.
additional step that they did not have to go through. So I think,
Yeah.
so that there again, all this stuff just kind of, if you put one pipe, two pipes, three pipes, four pipes, it doesn't really matter. All those costs are going to be there to do it. So if you did do that, I think you would probably, if you're going to go to the middle of the river, I think it would be wise to stick two pipes, because it would be really peanuts to do that extra increase. But if you wanted to do something less, we can go to the edge of the river. And then the question is, on the edge of the river too, is because the river fluctuates, that we need to get that intake low enough, and we don't know exactly what the topography of the bottom of the river is right around the bank, to make sure that we're low enough that we can still get water in there during lower flow. And then we would have to monitor the river to figure out sort of what those elevations were for low flow and that type of thing. So
Yeah, because you might want to pump the water out of the river when it's needed most in the summer, when the river's low.
exactly.
We don't know, without doing the modeling at the artificial recharge site, how much that recharged water is going to stay there, how long into the
Right.
summer, so the wells can use it. So
Exactly.
a lot of moving parts to this thing, so
Exactly. Yeah.
it's going to be tough to pin down a cost on this, I think, because there's so much unknown.
Well,
There
we pinned down a range. It's,
Right. I know.
Yeah.
is that
And
an
that's where-
oxymoron, pinning down a range? Yeah.
Yeah. And if we were trying to estimate this, that, estimated intake out there, I doubt we would get to 6 million, type of thing. So it's nice to have a real life number to look at, that Pennachuck had. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, that's good, because we did kind of ask you what the difference would be depending on the size of the pipes that we had to go with and the number of pipes and all that. And
Yeah.
it sounds like that's not a big piece of the increase,
No.
which I think was the question we had last meeting. So that kind of helps answer that.
Yeah.
And,
Because that
and
whole
on Peter's,
that whole area really has to get dewatered, because you have gravity flow going from the river into your intake structure. So that's a lot of area to sort of dewater and get your pipe set up and going into your structure and all that. So it's.
Now, I noticed one thing different at your last meeting last month. You had said that you would try to put the pump station on the west side of the tracks, but it looks like in the design, it's on the east side.
Yeah, so what we did
Couldn't get
was
away from that.
Yeah, well, we put because we, so how could you get the suction out of that? So what we did was we put the pumps, just the pump itself on, on the east side of the tracks, and then the control building on the west side of the track. So the west side
Right.
is what you're gonna be going to. And then, the east side is, you would have to check that, but I don't think it would be on a regular basis but we needed, how, the tough part was, how do we, do you get a gravity line going from the river underneath the track so you can have something on the west side? And that's quite a,
It's very
That's
deep.
quite
Yeah, I
a
was looking
feat.
at the
That's quite a
profile.
feat
It's like
there, yeah.
30 something feet, I think.
yeah.
All right.
And just because I wanted one clarification too, and I think I heard you say it, Dawn, and I'm not holding you to it, but did I hear you right to say that the board generally was thinking if you did pursue AR, it was really for AR, not to necessarily build it for the future, potential surface water? What did I hear you say?
That was what I said, and that's kind of what we agreed to at the last meeting. Because we didn't know the cost of the differential if we went with the future, proposal for the additional pipe. So I
Okay.
don't know. I guess I'm not really sure if that's the case. We were questioning putting the infrastructure in that we may not even use for 20 years. Would it still be
Right.
usable? Or would it be degraded, through its design life? So that we'd have to replace it anyway in the future. Then we might as well just put it in the future when we need it. But if that entails a lot of additional permitting and another crossing under the railroad and all that stuff, I don't know, it's kind of hard gamble. I would really like to know what the build out is of Merrimack because yeah, and I don't know how, I don't know how
I don't know.
it's not, that wouldn't be something you guys would figure out. You're talking about planning and how much water, where are we gonna max out? Is it 6 million gallons a day or is it 10 million gallons a day? Because we may be able to get there with groundwater sources if it's 6 million or 5 million, but if it's 10 million gallons a day, then we're probably gonna need surface water. I think we might be maximizing our aquifers. I don't really know.
Yeah.
But, so there's a lot of variables here, I guess, unfortunately.
Yeah, because you guys are putting up apartments like it's nobody's business,
I know.
But Merrimack is an attractive area for people that are wanting to commute down into Massachusetts. So it's
It is.
you can understand why they're doing it. So
Right.
Maybe we make one of those radial arm collector wells like Manchester did. That thing looked pretty beast.
Yeah. I
That
don't
was
know.
only what, 33 million?
I think it was
Yeah.
52, but yeah.
I know. Well, maybe the water supply is gonna be what drives the build out of Merrimack. Maybe that's a way to look at it, no more building. We're unless you do your own wells, because we're peaked out. We're done. MVD is peaked out. Have a good day.
Hey, make sure that gets in the minutes, will you?
Yeah, exactly.
Here, here.
I mean, that's an option too. All right. I don't know if there's any more to kick around on this issue, but
No, I think we got what we needed from you, so I appreciate that.
good. So there was just something on here for action items. I don't know if there was one or two things in the action items that,
I think it was 6, wasn't it?
yeah, let me find where these are. We'll go through the table real quick and see if there's anything there that may have Underwood listed as something to look into. If I can find them, it's after the minutes.
It was 6.
All right, so that's page 81 on the let's see, what do we got for?
At the bottom.
Yeah, the two last ones there, 93 and 94. I think we're good on that. It's Underwood to present an engineering service request to evaluate treatment options for well 6. So you guys have that. You're gonna put a price to that. So I guess we can look to authorize that at the January meeting, hopefully.
Yep.
And then another ESR for the cost to recommission well 6. And there's note here to merge those two together.
That was my question.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember if that was, well, they're both under Underwood, so I guess it's probably the same.
I think so. I mean, what we'll do with the CSR 6 is give you kind of an assessment of next steps and the costs associated with it if it seems viable to us. So
Right.
I think you just need the one right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, so that's why it was in the agenda, basically, just to kind of confirm what we're doing on the action items, okay. All right, that's good. We can come back to that. I think that does it for you
Did you have
guys.
any questions on the graphs or the tables or the PFAS, the
We got
charts?
charts now,
Oh, yeah,
the tracking, yeah.
the tracking of the vessels. Yes, I do. as a
Yeah,
matter
that's
of
why
fact.
Lynette's here. So she's here for that.
Okay,
Are you guys good with the chart format, or do you want something different, or?
where is this again?
At the back.
Yeah,
Last 7 pages.
yeah, so there's like a table in here, right? That's right. You created a
tables
table.
Well, there's tables for each plant, you know, with all the details, and then there's just a summary table that has everything on it that I tried to kind of hit the bullets of what I usually hit. I used to write like a little, just a written summary, but to try and standardize it, make sure we have the same information every month. I tried to make it into like a chart.
Right.
I can put that up if you want.
Yeah, so there's a new table in there. It's the MVD PFAS monitoring. Board of Commissioners meeting 12/18/23.
I actually like this way better.
Yeah, so I think there's a line item there that we're looking to have is the proposed lead vessel change date. Because we've got the date, you know, you got a bunch of other stuff. The date first put into lead position, which is like, well, let's use Wells 4 and 5. That was in August 22nd, 2023.
Right.
And then we had PFAS was breaking through the lead vessel. Was
Started
that
in September. The
September?
last
Okay,
entry there, date of the first detection of anything in the effluent was September 6th.
right. So the procedure or policy, whatever you want to call it, guideline that we have in place is that
Yep.
we replace that lead vessel media after the first breakthrough of the first effluent PFAS compound, or which was in 1 month in this case, or after 8 months. So we never change the media out any more frequently than 8 months.
Months, right.
If this lasted a year, we would wait a year.
Yep.
But it's never going to, because we're going to be playing catch up forever.
Well, yeah,
So I think essentially what would help us out is to have another line item there, right at the bottom of where the lead vessels are listed, right after it says date of first detection and effluent, to have another line in there that says proposed lead vessel change. And if we don't have anything breaking through the effluent for some of our treatment plants that are, you know, for the lead vessel, that date would be blank because it hasn't theoretically been established yet, because we
Okay.
haven't had breakthrough yet. But in this case, that we did have breakthrough after 1 month, then we go back and look at the date that it was put into the lead position and add 8 months to that. So by my calculations, that would be in April.
Wouldn't you just always want to see that 8 month date?
Basically,
Because I would always want to see the 8th month date there, and then because we'll see if there's
Okay.
no breakthrough. You know, we can keep going, but. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
it'd be like proposed
or minimum or something,
minimum, yeah,
vessel change or,
vessel change date or something.
well, what if we did the date of 8 months of operation and then we would put in what that date would be?
Right,
And then you can
Yeah.
just compare those two last lines of when you've had it versus when the 8 month date would be.
Yeah,
Now,
Yeah.
Ron, is it 8 months from when it is switched to the lead position?
right.
Okay.
It's not 8 months from when that media was installed. It's 8 months from when that vessel was put into the lead
When-
position.
Okay,
Cause in all cases, it's gonna be what used to be the lag vessel
right,
being put into the lead position at that time.
Yep.
So that media would have already been installed well before that, right? So. And I think that matches up the procedure that we put in place. And if we decided to change it to 6 months or something, we could always do that. We would just have you change those dates to 6 months instead, but.
Yeah.
Cause I know, we've been talking about, well, why don't we just change all the media now and start fresh with everything? But I think we don't have a consensus on that quite yet, so. Cause that's
So
gonna
the
be a big
months-
hit in cost if we did something like
so the
that.
months in service is showing the months it's been lag plus lead.
I think so.
Okay, yeah, cause that number, that is what makes it look like
Right,
we gotta change them all.
I almost had a heart failure when I first.
I was looking at this, so that number, that months in service total, I like it.
do we wanna change that to be the,
I-
or keep both?
We'll move it down so that you're saying
I was
lead
gonna say-
lag in total.
move that so it's not red. And I'll red.
Yeah, I don't want that to be red, because that makes me think I'm gonna change these suckers right now,
Right.
cause they're all over 8 months.
Yeah.
Right,
So, yeah, that one, I don't like it being red.
Okay,
But I like this format 100 times better than wading through all of this.
yeah.
You get
Yeah.
A+ on the format, I think,
Yeah.
with a few tweaks, this will be exactly what we need.
So that being said, if we're looking at these target change dates, Wells 4-5 would be April 22nd, 2024. Wells 7 and 8 would be January 30, 2024. Cause that's 8 months after May 30. But then Wells 2 and 9, that went online, put into lead position on March 20th. And we already have PFBA breaking through the lead vessel effluent there. So 8 months from there would have been last month.
Correct.
So that means our primary focus would be changing out the lead vessels at Wells 2 and 9 right now. Am I making sense? You following that?
Yes.
Cause the date put into lead position was March 20th. And then it says on the third, fourth, fifth line down that we got effluent PFBA and PFPEA is breaking through. And that's through the 100% port, I believe, right? Yeah, that's the effluent. So 8 months after March would put us in November.
Correct.
So I think this is what's, instead of us being reactionary to this, we can predict better if we have the date in front of us. And it may be that it didn't break through the effluent until November, so we wouldn't have known, right? I don't know
right.
when it broke through, but that's,
That's the line above it when it
Right.
first broke through.
Right.
It broke through just this last round.
oh yeah, it did say, right, so 8 months past March would have been November. Right, so there's no way we would have known it was November because we hadn't sampled yet.
Right.
So, I mean, this is just a good guide as to tell us, so in reality, it's only been 1 month that it's breaking through the lead vessel, so now is a good time to catch it. So that the lag vessel is preserved and maybe we can get a little bit longer runtime out of those. I know we ran Wells 4 and 5 and 7 and 8 a little longer because we wanted to push it and see how the PFOA removal, and we had warranties for all of that.
Well,
And I
4,000.
I assume we got warranties at Wells 2 and 9.
I believe you do. It's on the tracking chart.
And I'm sure we're not violated because those warranties only apply to the regulated ones, I think, right?
Well, they were different on all the plants. Let me see.
No, but the warranty for the contractor was just on the regulated ones.
I think so.
Well, it was different at each plant though. We
Oh,
ended up
okay.
with different things. So 2 and 9, initial lead vessel warranty was for 60,000 bed volumes for the 4 regulated chemicals at MCL.
Yeah. And so that's the change with the procedure we have, and we voted to put in place is
Right.
it's basically PFBA is gonna be the one, the non-regulated ones is what we're changing out based on that.
So
So
we're not gonna
the
worry
way this
about
came about is we figured the budget worked with an 8-month change out. If we just went straight on change out as soon as the first PFAS breaks through, some of these vessels we might have been changing after 2 or 3 months,
Mhm.
which would really put a stress on the budget. So I think that's why we decided to put a number on there, and we picked 8 months. I suggested 8 months. Everybody agreed to it. If there's a reason to want to change to make that more frequent, we can certainly do that, but at least it's a starting point, I guess. I mean, do you guys feel like we want to let this run longer? Because we let wells 4 and 5 and 7 and 8 run longer. I don't think I want to do this with wells 2 and 9.
No, and I think with the issue we're having, getting a supplier to do the change outs and do that, I think we should just. Ron's been working on that. We should just move forward on it.
Yeah.
As when we can.
Because we need a profile for this and everything. So by the time wells 2 and 9 media lead vessels actually get changed out, it's probably gonna be a couple months, 3 months, whatever ahead anyways. So I would say just start planning for it.
So I have some prices coming now. Some reason, I think I use a different date. I was thinking 4 and 5 is gonna be changing out December. January for 7 and 8. But I'm getting a formal, I can get it to go to.
Change the quantities in there and stuff. Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
I mean, they're gonna end up stacking on each other anyway.
Well, 4
size vessels.
the same size vessels. You just, there's 2 vessels at wells 2 and 9,
Yeah.
so it's.
Right. I think by the time we get 2 and 9 done, 7 and 8 are gonna be right behind it.
So
Yeah,
I am getting a quote from Carbon Corp, a formal quote. And my thought would be to change out the carbon. It's not the same carbon we have. It's a local carbon. It's made in the United States, so it will a little bit denser. Just to get our change outs in place and moving forward, and then I'm gonna work on a plan to do a complete change out of all the media,
are you talking about the makeup media here or?
just to make up.
All right, so we're still regenerating the existing media that we have.
Yes, that media will be regenerated, but they're gonna replace it with it's the GAC 1240 is what I'm.
Okay.
A price on now. My thought would be moving forward, pick a vessel, change out the media, take that media, have that housed somewhere.
Right,
That gets used as our makeup, and then as we use that up, go to the next and do it over time.
Eventually we'd end up with a new media,
Exactly, yeah, each vessel.
but we basically use up all of our makeup to
Yep.
actually use it up.
Become our makeup media now until we,
A good plan.
unless, except on the ones we have the new media, that's when we get that same media would be that makeup for that, but.
Well, and we
So-
also talked about it would be good to do it at one plant first. So you can try it out, see what the customer service is, see what the life of the media is.
Yeah.
Compared to what you had, rather than change everything out and then find out you're no better off than, where you started.
right.
Yeah, going with a different vendor now for the change outs, kind of get a feel how they operate.
Now, is that the regenerating part as well? Is it a different vendor for that?
Same vendor.
Okay. Or it's not,
It's not who we're using now. It's.
that's what I meant, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the new company that we haven't used.
Right.
Okay. Without naming the old company.
Right.
All right,
I'm trying to fight with them to get that straightened out as well.
wow.
Instead of holding a check.
I feel like this is our hurdle now. If we could get a vendor lined up that actually was responsive and
Yeah.
we could just get change-ups, then I feel like half of the problem would just solve itself.
It's been more resistance than being like proactively helpful to us. It's been unhelpful working with them.
I mean, I've only had conversations with the salesman, but he seems.
It can't be worse.
It's always a good honeymoon at the beginning, isn't it?
Well, that's my fear, but I got a good vibe, so I don't. Hopefully it'll change.
With the-
Hey, guys, I hate to interrupt, but I gotta run to another meeting, so I don't know if
Yeah.
I think I got what I need, but you can carry on. I just needed to let you know I had to head out.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Keith. Thanks for your help.
All right, thanks, guys.
Have
Good
a good
night.
Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, guys. Have a nice holiday. Bye-bye.
All right. Just to have Lynette and Pete's input on this about the different densities, that vendor said he didn't think that was gonna cause any problems or anything.
He seemed to feel it was gonna be fine, and
Yeah.
I know when we talked to Caldon. they
Somebody had an issue
recommended-
with it at some point along the way, didn't this, was it the last company that had an issue with changing makeup media or something? But they said it wasn't compatible because it was not the same density, it wouldn't work.
That would, not that it wouldn't work, but it'd be during the backwash process, you may not be able to get the proper conditioning because of the different density, but
Yeah,
again, this vendor seemed to think that shouldn't be an issue.
right. So I guess that's more reason to try it on one plant before we
Right.
do it across the board.
And it's probably less likely in the beginning, right? Because you're gonna send it out for regen, you're gonna put 10% heavier, denser carbon in with it, right? So 10% of your vessel is gonna be a different density than the rest of it. I assume it's gonna sink to the bottom, it's
I would think.
right, it's just gonna
Yeah.
kind of. As you get more and more, if you continue to do this and keep adding to it, that's
Right.
where I think you may have a problem. If you get to a 50-50 mix and now you're trying to put enough backwash water to expand the denser media, you're liable to be shooting your lighter material out the top, right? Because you've got a backwash with more water for the heavier carbon, to
Yeah.
get that fluidized. That's when you're liable to start losing your lighter carbon out the top,
So
so.
is that what you were saying, Ron, about? Do we want to do a swing load and have one of the old Evoqua media regenerated and store it somewhere and use that as the topping off?
Yes.
Yes.
And then maybe just put one complete new vessel of all brand new media in it?
Yes.
Is that what you were
Yes.
saying, or
Well,
just,
for now, for the short term, just so we get some change outs done, go with this other media. Like I said, it's 10%.
okay,
Come up with a plan and then go with one full vessel change out and then use the Evoqua media as the makeup as we go until we run out, and then do another vessel. Take that media, use that as the makeup until we work it through all of our vessels. And eventually have all new media. If that makes sense to them.
I'm not
So
following.
Ron,
So
would
basically-
that- Oh, sorry, go ahead.
What he's gonna do is he's gonna change out the first vessel with the new media. And then after the other media is regenerated, our old media, he's gonna start using that
Right.
media to make up the difference until he runs out of it.
Yeah, so we are gonna have one new vessel
And
of all
then
brand new.
He'll buy the next new
1240.
vessel
Not the first time, I'm just gonna,
first.
Just
right.
do the 10%.
I'm doing the 10% on
Okay.
the change outs initially to. Kind of get a feel for this vendor.
Right.
Then when we start doing it, that'll be used as the makeup, that 10%.
That 10% should make a
Right.
huge difference.
So then, all right, so you do one new, send the media out, gets regenerated, you put it back in the tank, 10% of the different media.
Yep.
Then what happens on the next change out?
Depends on how that vendor does.
Depends on the vendor does. Hopefully go back with that same vendor, use that same media. For another 10%. I mean, we're gonna have. So
Cause I mean, you got two change outs coming out. Like now in January, so basically they're both,
But I think by the end of those two change outs, if you do those with the 10% new media, you're gonna know how responsive they are by those two change outs, and if it works out, to know if you wanna buy a whole vessel worth of media for the next one.
Okay, so maybe the one in April, we might want to consider.
Right, we'll do that.
Lynette's got a good point, you know, that if it's only 10% of the heavy carbon on the bottom, probably won't be a big deal, but when you start accumulating that, the lighter carbon is going to be on top, and in order to backwash the heavier carbon, you might be blowing out.
So they might, you know, there could be 2 vessels or 3 by the time we make the decision to do the change out, but each one will only have 10%, because hopefully by that. We'll have that make.
Yeah.
Right.
Our own media that's gonna go
And
back into.
What's the ratio of the different densities?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's quite a bit. I mean, the existing stuff you have is like 22 pounds per cubic foot, that range, 22, 24 maybe, and the other bituminous is like closer to 30, as high as 33 on some of them.
Okay, so it is a decent,
50% or so, yeah.
okay.
Because the carbon you have is low density carbon, whereas the new carbon is regular density carbon, I guess.
So does that affect the flow rate through the media too, if it's heavier, or the porosity really is what matters or whatever, you know?
Yeah, it's the same size media. It's still a 12 by 40.
So it wouldn't affect the gallons per minute per square foot of the
No.
vessel. All right. I don't want to choke off the demand that we need to meet either, you know, so.
No, I think it's really a backwash concern. So it sounds like,
Okay.
Ron, you'll be doing like 2.9 with 10% new makeup. Probably 7 and 8 with 10% new makeup. Maybe by the time you get to do 4 and 5 again, you'll be ready to do a full new vessel, or if not, you'll do 10% in that one.
Right,
Yeah, okay. All right, well, that makes sense.
and then we just, use that as, that's gonna be the makeup from here on out.
Okay. All right, this is good. Sorry to belabor everything, but it's unfortunately, we're stuck with these decisions that we need to figure out for the first time, so,
Be so
But
helpful,
it's not easy, you've got 3 plans.
it's pretty easy.
yeah,
You get people to call you back and just do change outs.
yeah. All right. I think we're good. Is there anything else, Pete or Lynette, that you need from us? I think you got some pretty good instruction. That was a great table. It was very helpful. And that helps explain everything with artificial recharge and everything, Pete. And I know,
Oh, good. Okay.
yeah, you know, Mitchell Woods is straightforward too. Unfortunately, I think those electric, 3-phase electric costs are,
Actually, we found out that we
what-
just gotta verify, our electrical engineer said you can get an inverter and take single phase and boost it up to 3-phase. So,
oh,
depending on your horse, so we were in the process of looking at some of that, so some of those costs could come down, so.
yeah, all right. I thought that might
Yeah.
be the case. I wasn't sure at these size horsepowers if that would work or not.
Yeah, so we were getting into sizing the pump and then talking to them, so that was gonna be the next step on that one, so.
And did you end up determining that the 8-inch well was sufficient? I know there was a question of could you put a big enough pump in there?
Yeah, we can do that, yeah.
Oh, good. All right.
Yeah. So that was a good option to go with.
So basically, the unit cost for Mitchell Woods would probably have been even higher than what was represented in this chart if we did have to run 3-phase power underground, like we were talking about at the last meeting then, right?
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
just
just
wondering
looking-
what that includes, you know?
yeah, so just looking through the cost estimate. He still had the dollars in there for it, because we didn't finally come, it's highlighted yellow as we need to verify. So that was, so it
So
would
what-
actually go down if we can get an inverter and go with that option.
I think we should have you go ahead and complete that part of it then.
Okay,
You guys agree with that? I mean, I know we said put Mitchell Woods on hold, but we still just want to bag it? I mean, I don't know.
I think letting them get a better electro cross is not a big deal.
I think
I'd
so
be okay
too.
with that, cause
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna come back with the 4 options anyway.
And I want to be all those 4 options. I
And
want
so,
to,
yeah,
kinda-
so if that can.
You wanna have
make
all the
Mitchell Woods
information. Yeah.
Better,
Yep, okay.
I mean, it's not really going that much further with. the
Yeah, it doesn't sound like
designs.
it's a big heavy lift to add that.
No, it isn't. Yep.
Okay, and I think that'll give us a better picture of what the actual more,
Apples to apples.
yeah, the more definitive number is that we're looking at, right?
Okay. Yep.
So
that
yeah,
sounds
so
good.
why don't you plan on closing that out? Artificial recharge, probably not a heck of a lot more we can do on that. Without pursuing that pilot test, but that's kind of more in Jamie's bag.
Yeah.
So maybe hold the boat on that one, hold the
Yeah.
line. Okay,
Okay,
good.
we can do that.
All right, that's
Sure.
helpful.
All right.
All right, and have a good Christmas
Have a good,
yourself, guys.
yeah, you too.
Yes,
Happy
Merry
holidays, guys.
Appreciate
Bye-bye.
it. Thanks for calling in. Glad nobody lost power.
I know, huh?
I had to say it. All right, awesome. So do we want to get, I guess we go with the finance human resource review? I know we're a half hour behind. Can hang on there, Nick. We'll get there. All right,
I'm awake.
okay. Nick, are you in a time crunch or anything, or are you okay with holding off for another, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, or?
I can hold off another 20 minutes. I'm not in a super time crunch. I assumed that it'd go a little late tonight, so.
All right, what do you guys,
Rush, so if he needs,
why don't you go ahead, Nick, then if we'll
Oh.
let you go now, we'll shuffle the agenda just so that, you know, we can get, you don't have to watch you sitting around and, you know, you can get on with your business here.
Okay,
So-
sure. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
so basically what you're on here for is Merrimack TV to use Turkey Hill tank area for a proposed low power FM public safety radio station site.
yeah. And quite a bit has first off, I need to say thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I've watched all your meetings on TV, so I feel like I'm
Really?
a celebrity.
That's even more than all the commissioners have done.
So I know I'm on the agenda seemingly looking for a decision for something, but I'm not. I'm actually not necessarily looking for a definitive decision tonight. And I can explain why. I do have a couple things prepared. But I wanted to put that up front, and I'll explain to you in just a moment why that's kind of changed. I might come back at a later date seeking a definitive
Okay.
answer. But that's not going to be tonight. Tonight's about dotting my I's, but not crossing the T's. So first off, just to explain sort of what low power FM is and what it could potentially mean for Merrimack. Something I had presented to the town council just a couple months ago. And the first thing I explained to them about low power FM was that, just like our TV channels, we've kind of filled the void that local print media has left behind because we don't get newspapers like we once did at our doorstep. And this isn't just unique to Merrimack. This is across the country where, local newspapers kind of not being around anywhere has kind of led to this fading civic engagement, eroding social bonds, and kind of misinformation presenting itself. So broadcasting community content like we do, our varsity sports, concerts, municipal meetings, and original programming on our cable channels and now our app kind of fills that void. And having similar type of programs, but audio over FM airwaves would just be another medium to keep residents informed while instilling that sense of civic pride. So what Merrimack's low power FM radio station could mean, aside from the things I just mentioned, it could also be used for police and fire in case of an emergency. Bedford and Manchester have had their community radio stations broadcasting content over low power FM for several years with positive feedback and quite a bit of success. Our media division has long been recognized as a primary source of municipal information. And it's been greatly desired to add low power FM to our resources. So much that it actually appeared on our CIP as far back as 2011, and it was originally projected for the 2013-2014 budget. But each year we've had to shift it around or put it off because we've always been at the mercy of when the FCC would open a filing period window to obtain a low power FM frequency. And that hasn't occurred in over a decade. So over the summer, the FCC had announced that they would open that low power FM application window between November 1st and November 8th. Coincidentally, and maybe serendipitously, over the summer, the town of Merrimack had this opportunity by a request from the Londonderry School District. They have a low power FM station. They've had one for just over 15 years, and they were kind of looking to get out of it because they don't have the staff for it. The staff that was kind of championing it, 10, 15 years ago, they're no longer with the district. It was sort of pushed onto my counterpart with the school district, but he is a staff of one. And between them covering sports and a few other things, he just doesn't have it in him. So basically, Londonderry said, hey, if you'd want this to use this frequency, we could transfer it to you. And also we'd have an opportunity to buy their equipment at a fraction of the cost of even market value at that. So we've been working with Harry Kozlowski from Bedford TV / Bedford Radio. He's been a huge help with this. I've learned a lot in the process, and I'm still learning. As of today, we've applied for two things from the FCC. One was they call it a sale, but it's really, we're not paying for the frequency. You can't sell a frequency. I like to describe it as a transfer. So we've applied for a transfer of Londonderry's FM signal from Londonderry to Merrimack. And then also we've applied for a move of the station from Londonderry to Merrimack Town Hall specifically. The reason why we did that was we have a police tower outside of Town Hall here that isn't being used. We're here, so it made an awful lot of sense. We can apply for it, put up the antenna here, and get our low power FM station off the ground, no pun intended. With that though, once we're broadcasting low power FM from Town Hall, it's going to be limited. So it's not going to be town wide. I think the coverage map that Harry showed me, I want to say it was at least a third, maybe half, but definitely not town wide, which is fine because we just be getting started. And it was really the best case scenario for a move to get it going was to move it from there to Town Hall. But we will eventually want to expand our coverage, and we would need elevation. The Merrimack Village District has sites with that elevation, and coincidentally, they have inactive and available police radio towers that could be used for our low power FM antenna. And I should stress that we have vocal support from both the police department and the fire department. They've both said, we love this idea. We love Bedford and Manchester radio. Why not Merrimack? So they've been super encouraging in this process. As far as the sites go, on site near a tower, we would also need power, and we would need shelter for our transmitter. When I was talking to Harry Kozlowski, what sort of shelter that would mean, he said a 10 by 10 space is overkill. In fact, a low power FM station in Concord just put up a 10 by 10 space for their transmitter, and I was told that it was actually way too much. So it's kind of like he says a glorified shed, or you're saying less than a shed, 5 by 5 space, slightly larger than a closet, a simple enclosure to protect our equipment from the weather. So one of these sites that Harry spent an awful lot of time on looking at, and I spent just an hour or so walking with Ron Miner towards the end of the summer, was at Turkey Hill Road, the tank at Turkey Hill Road. I'm not necessarily saying we have to be there, we want to be there. That's just one of the more ideal sites. And if Harry was here to talk about it, he could explain the engineer jargon of why that site makes sense, because this antenna, no matter where it is, we'd have to apply for it, and it couldn't interfere with other radio stations and other things that may be in the area. Again, that's something I'm still learning about. So as I mentioned before I even was introduced, I'm not necessarily seeking a definitive decision from this board to approve a lease on your property. What I wanted to do was I wanted the board to understand what this FM station could mean for Merrimack, and why we would want to partner with the MVD to expand our future, expand our coverage in the future. Best analogy I came up with, I said it earlier, I'll say it again. I'm looking to dot the I's, not cross the T's, and that's because I have a presentation to make when I propose my budget to the town council next month. So I do have, I'll be allocating or hoping to allocate funds to expanding our forthcoming low power FM radio station. And I hope to be able to say that I've at least had this conversation with the MVD board, and that they're, at the very least, they're warm to this sort of thing happening. If you have any questions for me, I will do my absolute best to answer them.
Thanks. That was a very thorough explanation. Appreciate that. Anybody have questions for Nick? I've got a couple, but go ahead if you have any.
I mean, I've watched his presentation to town council. I watch a lot of Merrimack TV. And I think it's a great idea.
Yeah,
I'm fine with it.
yeah.
I think it, that'd be nice to have. And then would it be eventually, the other water tower? Not,
Hutchinson.
yeah, would you be looking to expand it to other areas in town?
Potentially. From what Harry described to me was that the Turkey Hill location was ideal, and
Pretty
that
central, right? It's pretty central to the town, I think.
it's central, it's ideal, it's the right amount of elevation. It's, but Harry's got that information. He's explained a bunch. Like I said, I've learned a lot these past couple months, and that one stuck out. He did say that there was one other one, but he said these things could change, because that low power FM application window opened in November. There may be other communities or that have also applied for frequencies. So those, frequencies that may not have interference now could have interference once these new applications are approved. So it's tough to say.
Yeah.
And we'd have to take a look, and I'm kind of doing it step by step. In fact, even there at one point, one idea was, well, let's apply to move it to that MVD site. And I said, well, we don't have permission to be at the MVD site. And then when he kind of like, he did the math and looked at the map again. We actually wouldn't be able to move the frequency from Londonderry to that MVD site. We first have to move from Londonderry to Town Hall, and then we can apply to move from Town Hall to Turkey Hill.
Okay.
So with the Turkey Hill, you will be able to get almost all the town for the elevation. That's why I was curious, like how much more listening area will you be allowed with? From
Turkey Hill, as we last checked, with that, if nothing were to change, we would be townwide. We'd be townwide, and potentially parts of Bedford, perhaps parts of Nashua. And I wanted to say this too. I mentioned Bedford having this radio station, Manchester having this radio station. They're really great. And both Harry and Peter at Bedford and Manchester, they program the radio stations really well. They're both they are also both administrated by their community TV stations. So it's not like it's someone who has zero broadcast experience administrating these stations. And I'd actually urge the board to take a listen. You can pick up Bedford radio and most of Merrimack or parts of it. And and Manchester as well. It's really a great resource.
John, do you have a question or,
No, I think he was asking about if we're lukewarm. I feel like it's a great idea. I'm in 100% support. I think Merrimack TV has really supported us over the years and
right?
provides a great service. And I'd be happy for us to back him on this. But I assume Ron took him up there and there's a site that we could use that wouldn't affect us at all.
Oh, there's plenty of room up there.
Yeah, and that's
I'm-
kind of, I think the only, caveats is to make sure that it doesn't conflict with, we got cell towers up there. And, we have contracts with cell companies and,
Two vendors. I have a call into one and I have an email into the other one, and they were gonna pass it off to their engineering group. But
okay,
it sounds like they're gonna have to do a study anyways as part of that application to make sure there's no interference, but,
right.
um,
And then
Yeah, I
Nick,
don't
you
want to say
mentioned,
it's carte blanche support, but obviously there'd be a
Yeah.
lot of work to be done. But as an idea, I think it's a good one.
yeah, we certainly don't want to impede any of our other existing, customers and things that we have. And you mentioned the need for power. So there would that be a separate power supply brought up there with a meter for the town? Or are you looking to share some, reimburse MVD for some power consumption? Maybe these are a little more in the weeds, but this is kind of,
Sure. Yeah, I think that that part of the discussion could come later.
Okay.
Just to let you know, I did a little bit of calculations with Harry. It's when they say low power FM, they mean low power and low cost. I was told that it would be just around, and this was also being generous, 500 kilowatt hours a month, and at 19 cents a kilowatt hour, it's something like 98 under $100 a month. So that part of it, we would definitely have to work out. If we were to go into any kind of agreement, that's something that we'd obviously want our legal to look at, and we can work out, and whatever that partnership may be, whether that's, if that cost is passed on to MVD, or if it's something that's reimbursed, or I'm sure we can figure that part out.
yeah, that's fine. I would be inclined more to do something like that as opposed to having the town take the expense of running a new service, and that's got to be a lot more costly. So I wouldn't want to put the town out for something that we could, if it's $100 a month or something. I'm not saying, maybe it's just some agreement that gets washed out somewhere, and maybe the town puts a little more brine on the streets in the winter or something. But no, that was just a joke. But no, that's great. Again, I was just looking to see if there's any major cost issues that it sounds like there really isn't. Obviously, in the future, some day comes where we might want to replace a tank. The way you replace a tank most often is you build a new tank next to the one that's there, and then you rip down the one that the old one. So it may be there could be some kind of infrastructure changes in the future, and if that affected your infrastructure for the FM signal, that would just have to be something, the town would have to deal with. It's kind of the same way, like when our water mains are in a road and the town wants to redo the road, MVD is responsible for the cost of replacing that water main. So it's kind of the same situation in reverse, I guess, is all I'm saying. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
With Turkey Hill Tank, nothing is on the tank itself, even the cell carriers that we have there now, they're separate.
Off. Okay.
Yeah.
No, good. I think this is great. I think this is a great idea, and we're certainly willing to, lend you our location. That's why the tanks are up there on the top of the hill, because it's good for the water pressure, and if it's good for FM signal, then that's the same reason.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the support, and I'll definitely mention that at the council meeting when I present my budget that we've had this discussion, that you're supportive of it, and I look forward to potentially having this partnership in the future.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, you guys have been doing our recordings now for, I don't know, a few years anyways, at least if not more. So that, you know, maybe that's just a good gesture for us to say, go ahead with it. We'll cover the power if it's that much of if it's that little. You know, I think that would be a good gesture as a thank you for covering covering all our meetings that you have been, and hopefully will continue to do in the future. So at least
Great.
that's my perspective anyways, but
Sounds good.
awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you so much for your time, and I hope your meeting doesn't go too long.
Yeah, feel free to come back to us if you have to at any point. You can always just jump in and update us or ask us any more questions. That's fine.
I will do. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thanks. Have a great holiday.
You too.
All right, good. So now we'll get back to Kristen. So we're going to be talking about analysis of revenue and expenditures and then the capital reserve balance.
Yes. So the report is for November. It was done on December 12th. We are 42% through the year. As of right now, our revenue is 46% of our budget. And our expenses are at 29% of our expense budget. The largest reason for the expenses being so low is our chemical budget. Due to all this lovely rain, we have not needed as much water, hence less chemicals. Obviously the budget, we need to budget for worst case scenario. We're not gonna need the amount of chemicals that we thought for this particular fiscal year. Some other minor things for the expenses. In terms of some of the filtration, 60650, which you guys have been talking a lot about on 8-month term. Coverage right now, that is showing at 27%, because one of the more recent ones we actually covered with prior year budget. So it doesn't show in this, even though it actually happen within this year. So just to kind of keep that in mind. In terms of meters, 70450, we have one of the things that had come out is that we did recently replace a few larger meters for our customers. So that's coming in a little higher. And then a lot of the other things are just due to timing. And then one more thing is R&M software 70525.2. That is coming in at 53%. We've recently, we're told, we did not plan on budgeting Itron. We now have a new service called Beacon through Styles, which reads our new Badger meters.
Are those for the customers in the homes and everything you're talking about? The reading the
Correct, our
meters?
residents,
Yeah.
how we read our meters.
Okay.
The majority of our meters, however, are still Itron. And we have now found that we do still need that software in the interim. But I am been working with Styles because they kind of made it sound like that we wouldn't need it. So we're working out some things. So that I'm hoping to get some reimbursement for, but right now it's 53% for that. I'm hoping Styles will kick in because they were not budgeted expenses for Itron. Overall, we are looking at our net ordinary income at roughly $1 million so far. And if you have any questions on any of my notes or anything of the total.
Well, the only question I had, you just answered about the Itron thing, so that was good. Anybody else have any questions on anything? No?
John?
Good.
Coming.
Okay.
I think The only thing that strikes me is it sounds like you're experiencing a much more favorable to budget than you anticipated. And the only
Yes.
thing that strikes me is if we're in that same position in March when we do our April meeting, it would be good that we have researched, I would say, where we can get the biggest bang for that excess as opposed to just saying, okay, we want to put it in capital reserves. Either we say we put it in capital reserves and we say why, like we found a new solar array, wonderful idea that's going to save us millions. Or maybe we have something else, or maybe we said what we looked into and decided this marginal option is the best. So you understand what I'm saying, right?
Yep,
Okay.
coming up with,
That's the only thing that occurred to me, and I think that would help us be best prepared for any questions from the audience.
I can do a short,
CIP.
we could do a short version of the CIP, a more public friendly CIP that says of the $1 million we're looking to put in, this is where it's going. With the existing money that's there, this is where it's going.
I
So
think hitting a
that's-
handful of highlights would go a long way, definitely. Yeah,
Yep. I can do that.
thanks, good. Nice job.
Our fund balance. Right now with our breaking out of our restricted, which hasn't changed from, they are kind of set in stone from the beginning of the year. Our unrestricted right now is at 23 million, but I did actually break this out to truly how it would be broken out by fundings. So it's not all in that lump sum under operating. We're all looking at.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So that in the grander schemes, 4 and 5, 2 and 9 are public depository, our trust and our escrows are really they're somewhat restricted and can be converted if there was an emergency, and then would obviously have to fund back those particular funds. But this kind of spells out what makes up that 23 million. Does that make more sense?
It doesn't look like 23 million this way.
There isn't, correct. Overall, our net income right now is about 969,000. And when I say overall, that means all accounts, not just our budgetary revenue and expense. So that includes below the line also, that we talk a lot about. Bank balance, profit and loss by month, those are really the standard reports that I've put in. And did anyone have questions on any of those standard reports?
I don't,
Okay.
anybody good on that? Yeah.
Moving on to the capital reserve balances. I changed it a little bit to see, so you guys could see where we kind of stand at the end of each capital year, if you put it. With some of the discussion earlier, I made some notes that like Mitchell Woods for 2025. According to the original capital budget, we had $2 million coming out. Not as though we put that on hold. So this will kind of, as you and Underwood and Emery and Garrett work out things will start getting shifted to see where we stand at the end of each fiscal year. I've also kind of put in for equipment and facilities and for water purchase somewhat standard, hoping that we'll put back into those funds each year. But this, I hopefully, as I said, I can make this a lot more public friendly. But this, to give you an idea of where we stand with those, each of those trusts. Any questions on the way this looks, or if you want to change it anymore?
I don't have any comments on that. I think it's done well. And
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
Looks good to me.
all right, good. So I guess we can move on to, if there's no more questions on that. What is this? The forgiveness of carrying charge
yes.
policy and procedure?
The very first page is my recommendation. The second and third page was what it was originally. Anything in yellow is what I changed.
Yep.
I think we can hopefully for a vote say to amend this, and we can move forward with this for our customers.
Yep. It's really just, authorize the superintendent, business manager, or his or her designee to forgive a customer's carrying charge twice per calendar year, or in extenuating circumstances if additional forgiveness is needed. Then at the discretion of the superintendent. And it was before,
It was just
just one time only,
One time only.
right? So it's a little bit more, forgiveness for some of our customers who may have just it's the something by accident or whatever the case may be or whatever. Yeah, I think we talked about this last time and pretty much what we talked about, so. I don't think there's any different language than we went over last meeting, right? So this is just formally,
It's just formally to vote to make
Right.
the change.
all right, so if there's any questions on that, now's the time, otherwise, look for a motion to be made, I guess.
Make a motion to accept the changes to the forgiveness and carrying charge policy.
Okay,
Seconded.
all right, motion by Aaron, second by Ken. Any other questions? Seeing none? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. John, for roll call, how do you vote?
Right.
All right, good. That's 4-0-0, no abstentions, no oppositions. Are you sticking around, Kristen, for anything else?
Action items, yes.
Yes.
All right,
You want to go over the?
yeah, you want to do
first?
those? Why don't we do those first, and that way you can
Sure thing.
catch the Monday night football game?
There's none.
Is there any this
I
week?
thought the Cats played,
Oh, they was supposed to be the Patriots.
Oh,
but-
that's right. Oh, they didn't switch it up though, huh? They just,
they played yesterday.
Yeah, they switched it because
well, I thought they
Patriots.
put someone else in the slot.
I don't know who they did.
I don't
Must
know.
have. Yeah, they wouldn't give up. Oh, Taylor Swift was there.
There.
All right, so what are we doing? Action items.
Action items.
I was wondering why that stuff was together, but it's part of an action item. That's what it was. I
Right.
was like, no, she has to talk. Fun stuff.
Well, let's just go through them and then when, Kristen, you can just jump in when yours hit here. So, looks like item number 2 is, next month. Item 23, that's gonna be due in February. Ongoing SALT committee meetings, that was slated for December, but I think just basically an update on that. We had one last month. Is it this month, last month?
I want to say it was this month. It was just early in the month.
Yeah, all right.
No,
No, Jimmy came out to talk about it
Oh, that's right, he did.
last time.
I didn't know why we had put December in for a report on that. I'm not sure.
weren't we gonna shoot for a meeting? What my thought was, I mean.
Oh, maybe we were.
I think we were, but then the meeting with the town and the DOT,
DOT came up, yeah,
that smaller meeting was scheduled, so.
right. We got,
Check Jamie's schedule and see when he's available.
so what, is this the same meeting that we're talking about that has the DES is involved with the watershed grant and everything, right? Those, so that's all basically one, that's the same group we're talking about, okay. Did we say at the last meeting when we wanted to have the follow-up meeting? I'm trying to remember.
And everybody was like, no, I can do this before.
Yeah. I had all kinds of Zoom problems on that, so I didn't remember how that was resolved, so.
Quarterly or on the call, with Jamie to other stuff, or if we've got other.
So. Plan something for January then.
Yeah, and, do you want to, does that seem appropriate to you guys?
We can do the schedule.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
The schedule,
Right on the 12th.
happy birthday.
All right, so Amanda, if you want to just update number 43 for the report to be given in January,
Yep.
and that way we'll remember to look back on that. Let's see, number 58. Yeah, so we do have the graph. The one thing I wanted to point out on that is the graphs of the minerals, which is iron, manganese, hardness, that type of stuff. We're seeing some bad patterns reestablish. If you looked at the graph for, we're at like some of the highest chloride levels in almost all of our wells now with this latest data. It's in the back of the packet, but well, 4 is at 200 milligrams per liter. And it was at 150 in the previous sample. So I think these latest samples, are these quarterly, right? So are they on the quarter? So is that in September that this was probably
Beginning of this quarter, so that would have been
October?
October.
Okay, so that's pretty recent. I mean, it's only a couple months ago. So it went up quite a bit from the previous one. It's, if you look on the graph, looks like the highest number ever recorded since 1992 for well 4. It came close to this level back in 2007.
Yeah.
So I guess it makes all of our salt committee stuff that we're doing that much more important. It probably is something I want to show to that committee next time we have the meeting, is just to give them a general update that things are definitely not getting better. They're getting worse. Unfortunately, well 5 is at its second highest level reading, third highest or whatever. That's at 250 for chloride. What was a little more concerning to me was that well 7, which you remember well 7 and 8 had been on a pretty level trajectory, and it had changed its increasing trajectory.
Yeah, now it's on.
It's jumped back up there again pretty significantly. Just at the, 3 readings ago, it was below 100 and now it's pushing 200. So beginning of the year, it was at like, just, it was just a little bit under 100 and now we're pushing 200.
Do
So
you think that could be because now that all the plants are online, we're actually pumping more water regularly?
I don't know if that's got anything to do with it or,
Cause it kind of amazed me because if these were taken in October, it's not like they were salting
Right.
during the summer.
so it's salt that had been in the aquifer.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just getting washed in, or maybe these weren't wells that we were.
Of course, it could have been salt that was applied last winter that's in the groundwater that's just making it to the well now, but I guess I'm wondering, that's exactly what I'm wondering.
Where it would have thought the peak would have been. I thought the peak
Right.
would have been the next quarter.
Is it something going on? Did something happen last winter? Did the salting practice change in the wells 7 and 8 watershed? I don't know what's causing this spike again, because it was being very consistent since all the way back to 2014. It was being very consistent, and then
We're up again.
this just doubled above its average where it was, its range where it was before. So it's just a little alarming.
So one thing we did, we actually started looking at the addresses for the letters we sent out in October.
Yeah.
So and that went out to Merrimack residents within the wellhead protection area. We actually did a mailing to Amherst and Hollis as well, around the wellhead protection area.
Yeah, good, good.
And I've actually included in the route that I kind of see what's going on out there in the wellhead protection area. So there's a couple places I gotta send another letter to. We're also gonna cover that within our BMPs as well. I think it's PCSs now. It's
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's what
that's the acronym.
best management practices is what I know it as, but so we're gonna do some site surveys coming up, and that's part of when we do the site survey, we're gonna ask that question as well as, what do you do for winter maintenance type of thing?
Right. And the same thing at well 8 too. So it's not it's both wells. It's the watershed. It's not just that one well. Well 8 went up from just 2 quarters ago, it was under 100, around maybe 75, or no, maybe like 80 or 90. And now it's over 150. So those are very significant increases. It just definitely caught my attention, kind of alarming. So anyways, I just wanted to say that. I'm glad to see that, maybe we can take a look at what's going on in the watershed after certain storms and whatnot. There's some properties there that changed their salting practices back in 2011 or 12 when that change happened. And just make sure that they're still doing that now. And I guess it's the equivalent of in the summer when we have odd even irrigation. We're policing that, and this is like the equivalent winter task. It's not irrigation, it's the salt use. So it's almost like we got to switch those efforts from the summertime irrigation policing, I guess I'll use that word, to get into this, the salt policing in the winter. And we probably didn't really do much irrigation policing this summer, but
We don't, and typically we don't unless we're really struggling.
right.
And obviously we will if we get a phone call.
Yeah, yeah,
We're out there, but
yeah, I agree. All right, so back to the action items. Where were we here? That was
58, what? Right?
yeah.
Sebastian.
So 58, I guess the next one is these are quarterly, so it looks like March. Yeah, so if you want to change number 58 to March, Amanda, that'd be great.
Okay.
Number 59, that's gonna be targeted to be discussed in January. 67, inquire with DOT about moving the no salt sign closer to exit 10. Any movement on that?
so I did. I got an email back today. This was a couple signs they want to move. The one, I think there's 2 down when you're coming east on Continental, heading this way. There's a couple of the no salt signs. They want to move closer to our signs, and so I'll end up meeting with Colby out there, and we'll figure out where we want to put them. Industrial Drive, they're going to move up. There's a no salt sign that's out there. They're going to remove that.
Yeah.
They're not.
Well, I was wondering that because for all these years, they've been driving by a no road salt sign and
Yeah.
Salted.
just dumping inches of salt on the ground. So
So that one's going to come out. So there's going to be it's in the process, and it'll hopefully happen pretty soon. But I'm going to see if I can't meet with them this week and get out there and figure out where they're going to go.
all right, good. What else do we got here? What was I on? Sorry.
68.
Yeah, grant funding for artificial recharge, Mitchell Woods. I don't think we're really even
Just ongoing.
looking at that point at this.
I
Yeah,
don't know what they're fishing for, but I definitely keep an eye on any grants that are.
right, right. Amanda, why don't you change 68? You could probably just take that December off there. I don't know if we really need to put anything in there. I think if we're actively considering pursuing Mitchell Woods or artificial recharge, we could probably look for grants, but at this point, until that's decided, you could probably just take that off of there completely.
Or do you want to just kind of keep it on? I
Follow
think,
up on it or something?
yeah, maybe put for February, and because we're going to meet in January discussing possibly about well, 6, we'll have a better idea.
All right, that's fine. If you want to do February, change it to February, number 68 and
Okay.
number 67. You think next month is okay with that one, or what do you think, Ron, the salt signs,
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
January?
Yeah.
All right. All right, 76, the irrigation ban, that's coming up on the next, the trigger levels is coming up in the next agenda item. Why don't you move that one to January, number 76? Because I think that's when it would be sent in if we agree to do it. Number 79, update on water line extension status. That was monthly anyway. I don't know if there's been any,
It really has been much on it.
right?
Still on design phase.
Still in design. They did have bid openings. December 8th. So I haven't got any word on that yet. And actually I will follow up on that, figure out, WSP, St. Cobain water line extension.
All right.
That's what that one is.
So what about the grants for the 2 or 3 water line extensions that we're managing? I think the next thing was to get the surveyors out there through Underwood, right?
Yes.
You don't know if that's happened or not.
I haven't heard, no.
Okay. Yeah, I think in my mind, this covered all of the water line extension projects. So if in the future, if you want to reach out to Underwood and just get like an update, maybe tell us all of these projects, what's going on. That would be good. All right, so we'll leave that one monthly. Number 83, lockbox info. Do you want to cover that one, Kristen?
I have a written update in your packet too to go along with that.
Yes.
All right, why don't we skip it? We'll just go hit all of them at the same time. So probably the next 3 then, 85, 86, you can cover those.
Mhm.
And we'll let Amanda know if we can close these out or push the dates further out when we do that. Solar power, that was January. Oh, I missed one. PFAS GAC filtration media alternative vendor. I mean, you kind of discussed that already.
Yep.
That's probably, yeah, so that's quarterly. All right, so why don't we put number 88? Set that up for March. That would be the next quarterly discussion. Solar power is January, ideas for assessing late fees. I guess we can probably close that one out, right?
Yep,
Number
we
91.
voted on it.
Yeah, so you can close that out, Amanda, number 91. Let's see, update website for salt use reduction alternatives.
Just still working on that, because we've got, Sean O'Keefe is putting together some brand alternatives as far as residential. And then he's also been talking about, getting his manufacturer's license or something, and he can actually partner with a couple of the local stores around here to sell brine in smaller amounts.
Oh, good.
Local consumption, but the flyer talks about the different kinds of sprayers, whether it's backpack, 12 long, push, totes. It gives all, he did a really nice job on it, and we just got that today, but we're still kind of finalizing that for board review.
All right. Do you want to put a time on that, maybe January, or you think that'd be appropriate?
Yeah, it should be done at the end of this week.
All right, good. So 92, why don't you list the last column, Amanda, for January?
And then 93, 94.
Yeah, 93, 94. I guess we can combine those like you suggested, Amanda.
Okay.
What do we want to do with the wording on that? Are they kind of the same?
Do we even want to have on there the cost of resubmission of all 6? Because it seems like it's jumping the gun a whole bunch.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Well, I think they were doing costs so that they could, put it on that graph with the other 2. So I would just say
So maybe,
evaluate treatment options and costs for well 6. Leave it at that.
okay,
Because you did want it on that graph with the other
Yeah,
ones,
right.
it was cost, so.
so you could, I guess, delete 94 then? All right, are you all set on that one, Amanda, about deleting 94 and just adding what was it,
Cost.
treatment and cost?
Yep.
For 93, okay.
And that was January.
Yeah, put January. Good, thanks for reminding me.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so now we can jump down to Kristen's stuff. So number 83, lockbox update.
So lockbox update, and portal, just a quick numbers for our portal. From the numbers from last month's customer sign up has increased by 1.5%. Customers with e-bill only 0.5%. Customers with on auto pay increased 1.2%. Overall, as far as using the website is over 58%, which is amazing.
Awesome.
Customers on e-bill and auto pay, 18% and 23%, which is a quarter of our town, which is again fabulous. In terms of an update on the lockbox is actually one of the features that the new software company offers. It's significantly cheaper than our bank.
Nice.
So one of the nice options is that, as I had mentioned before, last month, what this lockbox would do is that their team not only opens the mail, but actually puts the information directly into the software. Whereas our bank just gives us a file that we still have to review and import. And again, I had to ask them 3 times, are you sure that's the price to do all of those steps?
Really? Yeah, I bet. Good.
For upgrading financials, the criteria that Wolf had asked me to do, now I've given you, so last month I gave you what I was kind of looking for. This month I actually gave you all the companies I looked at. Tyler, Springbrook, Municipal Technologies, Software Solutions, MillSoft Utility Software, OpenGov, Procom Data, and AccuFund. And then based on the conversations that I had with each of those vendors, what did they fill out according to the criteria that I needed? Focusing mostly on financials, but then also down below, if they had utility billing, what were some of the things that they offered? And as you can see, kind of Springbrook, which is the company I'm hopefully suggesting to you guys, checked off the majority of the boxes for this criteria. Any questions on how I filled this out? Any of the notes that I kind of put in there?
I don't have anything myself.
Okay. And then in terms of the vendor, I gave you guys basically their website blurbs. You can kind of familiarize yourselves with what they offer. Obviously, we'll go way more in depth once I give you guys the presentation, once I give them the presentation first. But I wanted to kind of give you guys an idea of who I'm looking at, what their marketing team puts out.
Wow. Good.
Employee handbook. Budget has taken precedence over that, so Ron, hopefully will get that to me next month.
I started on it, didn't get very far, but.
Yeah.
But as I said, budget's a little more important. Solar power, number 90, I have not had a chance either, because budget's kind of taking
Yeah,
priority.
Yeah.
Number 91, forgiven, you guys voted on that. And then level of service, we didn't ever really have a number, but there isn't really much of an update. We're still finalizing all of our tasks for our vertical assets and stuff to, again, get you preventative maintenance report for our 3 treatment plants, but that's still in the works.
Good. Did we So as far as going back to the action items table, is there any of these we want to change the dates for some of these? Review lockbox info in
So,
3 months.
83. Maybe start from February potentially for you guys
Yeah, it's,
to hear my presentation.
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So change
That
8,
gives me a decent amount of time with these two first.
yep. So Amanda changed number 83 for February. Is that what you said?
Um,
And then 85, did we already
85 is, they're similar, so both of them, because again, the lockbox and financial software are collective.
all right, so make
So
that February as
for
well
them
for
also.
85.
Okay.
Handbook,
Employee handbook, we'll push that off. Where do you feel comfortable with that one?
I'd say probably April for
I was
that.
gonna say probably after
After all the budget.
yeah. That's fine, you know, I mean, we got bigger fish to fry,
Yeah.
so I'm all for it. You guys are very busy and so let's make 86 be April.
Yep, and then solar, I'm gonna probably push that out to April and May,
Yeah, what number was that one again?
90.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. Did you get that, Amanda?
Yep, April, May.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
All right, so that covers all of those.
Covers my items.
Good.
Then with your items, if you have any questions, log on. Next time, call Block 5 directly or call me for their number. And other than that,
I think it was John I talked to the other day.
Yeah.
He was very nice.
Yeah, I talked to somebody 2 weeks ago. He started changing something around and he started with my email address first and all of a sudden he called me before I even realized it that he changed my password so that
Yes.
I wasn't getting emails.
while you're doing that.
So it was good. He gave me the new password and I got back in there and everything's okay. So that's fine.
So again, any questions, call me or
All right.
contact
Yeah.
directly.
So I would say, I would just like regard to technology. I'm fine with Block 5. OneDrive and Office 365 and the new way of getting email and
Yeah,
It's not working out.
you got cut off, Ron.
Hello?
Board of Commissioners packet. I could not open that as a PDF.
Really?
Okay? Really. I looked everywhere to get that option to be able to do it. It forced me into guess who? Microsoft Chrome. Edge, excuse me.
Well, it
I could
is.
choose Google Chrome, but
On a browser.
I gotta be
Can-
honest with you.
You can download it.
Did you ever try downloading it and looking at it or just trying to look at it on?
I downloaded it. When you download it, that brings it to Edge. When you go to save it to my documents, you can't find the one on my computer, only one on OneDrive in the cloud, which I don't believe has been perfected to this point.
Oh.
I'm very opposed to receiving the information this way. I don't feel like it's well organized. We get a 114-page document that just goes straight through. I'd be looking for links to individual things for me to find that would make the meeting a lot shorter. If I could actually get to the information without going through 114 pages of stuff. And some of this is me ranting, but honestly, it's just not, it just doesn't work for me. It's just not technology that's
Yeah,
good. I'd prefer to get an email with a PDF on it for any communications. I'm having a hard time with it, and if it's just me, I'll do my best to keep up. But that's how I feel about it.
John, if whenever you do have time, perhaps then I can walk through
That's
the
the
whole
really,
OneDrive.
That honestly is the point, is that I do not have time to go learning this new technology. I do not.
I don't have a problem emailing it to you. We just gotta make sure we can zip it up and get it over to you.
Yeah, it's a pretty big file. So I don't know, I don't know what's the difference, but when I select download, I have an option to browse to where I want to save it onto my computer. And there's no
Normally do as well,
Microsoft,
and
there's no
normally it
Microsoft
gives,
Edge.
yeah, normally it gives me a full directory, but that was not the case today.
That's weird. I don't know.
and I just feel like we're holding ourselves into Microsoft, and doing everything that their way, and it's just going to really slow down productivity.
Yeah, which is kind of contrary to what it was there for.
Yeah, I mean,
Do we lose you?
We keep losing his spot, yeah. Oh. And then it'll come back.
Yeah, your audio kind of drops off a little, John. I don't know why. I can't hear you right now, but
There he is.
I'm not sure. Maybe I'm too far away from my Wi-Fi thing. Maybe I need a new one of those.
we can hear you now.
Okay.
Well, I guess if you can email the file to John, if it's not too large.
We can email him and John, if you could find time, I'm always available to help with the OneDrive.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I know I'm not up, I got the old software from Windows 7 and it's still working on my PC, so I don't know if I can figure it out. I'm surprised.
I have a link and I just keep hitting the same link. It's magically appears. So
It must be
I
frustrating.
have a bookmark and that's where it always is.
Took me a little bit, I saved I got a icon on my desktop, I just click, it goes right to it. It took me a little bit to save it there.
Hopefully that's what happens on ours.
I asked them to bookmark
He
it.
said he was gonna do all.
I did that too.
I said
Yeah.
OneDrive needs to be bookmarked and clear for all of them.
Yeah,
Right.
so yeah,
So
I'm
let
excited.
me know
If not, I'm
that-
call and harass him. And I'll be like, what is this?
All right, we want to move on or we, okay.
Then,
Yeah,
Merry Christmas to all.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're all done. So that's good. Good for you. Have a good holidays.
You too.
I gotta take on about a half hour to sleep.
Right. All right, so I think the next one will go pretty quick. Number 5 is Board of Commissioners to discuss proposed changes to lawn watering policy supplement.
Skip 4.
Are you skipping?
Oh, did I, why did I do that?
It's a letter.
No, why did I check that? I thought we already did it, but we didn't.
I think we talked a little bit.
Right, okay, so yeah, there's a bill proposed to restrict certain PFAS products in like consumer products. And I spoke with Senator Evel. We just been talking about this and I asked her, or she asked me if I'd be willing to either write a letter or go there and testify or something personally. I don't have the time to go and testify. I'm not sure when it's gonna be. It's in the Commerce Committee, I believe it is, been assigned to in the House, up in the State House in New Hampshire. And there's a copy of the bill in the packet, and I had put together sort of a email that I sent around to you guys. I handed you out. John, I emailed something this afternoon. I don't know if you got it, but I printed it out. I have hard copies here. Perry Roman is looking it over just to make sure everything's copacetic with our other attorneys down in Texas and New Orleans. But assuming that's all good, I had written up something that I would like to have on MVD's letterhead, and whoever would be willing to sign it. I think it's more powerful if we have individuals sign it. If you don't want to sign it, either one of you guys don't feel obligated to, but
it's a very good letter.
so if that's okay, if it's all right with Kerry, then I would say if we can just put that on MVD letterhead. I don't know when we're gonna have the opportunity to come and sign it physically. Because if we can wait till our January meeting, but I think it's a late meeting, right? Because that's the third Monday is a holiday, so it's pushed off.
We'll get it around if we need to.
And
All
if,
right.
you know, if they let us know that it's ready and
Yeah, we
Carrie's
can just drive.
review, we can just stop by and sign it.
Yeah,
Fine
I
with
feel
that.
bad about putting you guys out to make a trip down here to do that. I mean, I'm only
I-
2 minutes away.
I
but-
drive this way for a long time.
So I'd say whenever it's gonna be heard in the committee, we want to get it in before that. And I don't know when that is yet. She's gonna tell us when that is, but it's probably sometime in the middle of January, the earliest. So if that letter can be ready to go and have a signature on it. And you know, I'll get the address and all that stuff in. I'm sure we'll probably email it, or I can email it, or somebody can email it. Maybe as the chair, I can email it to the appropriate persons. So there's still a little bit more digging I need to do to get that information about what address it's gonna be sent to, email address, that type of thing. So maybe just sit on it now until we hear back from Kerry, if she's okay with that going ahead.
Don,
on it.
can you just give us a brief preview of what this letter is all about? I saw a long chain of emails from you that was gonna take me a while to look through, and I did not have time this afternoon to look at it.
Right,
What are you asking?
it's just basically, I wrote up a letter that had some points of view about why it's important to restrict PFAS from being, intentionally added to consumer products, you know, lipstick, dental floss. There's stuff that it doesn't belong in. And I just thought it would be powerful if a letter came from the MVD, and I kind of tied in the fact that, you know, MVD has been an impacted community, and it kind of goes into more detail, but Kerry didn't want me to read the letter outright in the public forum here until she cleared it with our attorneys. So I don't think I really want to say very much more detail, but it's
get
all
it.
on, it's all on one page. I mean, you probably could have read half of it in the time that I just spent babbling about it, but if you don't
I
feel
get it.
comfortable, you know, we'll just, whoever's not comfortable signing it, we'll just take the names off of the letter if you're not comfortable signing it. But I just wanted to get the feel from the board as a whole, if there's any major opposition to something like this. Obviously, if Kerry comes back and says that our attorneys feel that it shouldn't be sent, then we won't send it. But I can't see that that's gonna be the situation, but
I
I'm a
don't have
little,
any major objections, but I do have a question. Who is it addressed to?
it's addressed to the chair of the Commerce Committee. It's in a committee. A House bill goes through various committees that it gets assigned to first. And it doesn't go to the floor of the House for any vote until it makes it out of the committee. So I think on these letters that are in committee that you're in favor of, is the request is
They're breaking out now too.
it gets approved to be recommended for, what the heck was it? For
I'm sorry, you said it was going to some committee and then it broke up. I mean, are we talking about a state house thing or a federal?
yes,
thing?
it's the State House, it's the Commerce Committee. The chair of the Commerce Committee is who it's going to go to, and I'm going to recommend an ought to pass status to leave that committee to go to the main House floor. Did you hear that, John?
Okay, yeah, I got that. I feel like,
Okay,
so does that only affect things that are manufactured in the state, or does it affect things that are purchased as well?
I believe it's both.
Right.
I'm not entirely positive on that, but I believe
And
it's both.
I think it's at sale in there, so.
And it's for intentionally added PFAS into products, into consumer products that really have no business to be there. There's exclusions for, you know, like military and other things like that. From my understanding is this bill is not as strong as it wanted to be, but kind of watered down in order to get more of a chance of passing. So
Understood.
I don't think it's going out too far on a limb, and it actually could be stronger, but I think it's a good start. Just so you know, the state of Maine already has this and Massachusetts is being proposed.
I think Vermont has it as well when I looked it up this afternoon.
Okay, yeah, no, I'd feel comfortable supporting that, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if you can read through it, the letter, if you have any objections, let me know. I can always change the wording around or something if you want, you know what I mean?
No, I'm sure it'll be great.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. Next thing we have, it is,
Watering policy.
yeah, it is the lawn watering policy.
Don't have to
So-
worry about it today.
Yeah. No, we don't have to worry about it today. So the main thing on this is I was looking on the website in the past and I noticed the triggers on the website are probably something that would never happen, in my opinion, because I think we've had bans on irrigation a couple times in the past. There's one in 2020, and then there was another one, might have been before that, or yeah. And I think what we ended up doing is we went from restrictions of still odd even, but 5 to 8 in the morning, 5 to 8 in the evening.
Mhm.
And then we had to take it to the next level of only 5 to 8 in the morning. And then the last level was it's just banned.
Mhm.
So on the website, and I know it matches what the recommended thing is from the state. But I can't see us like, first of all, our customers are not gonna follow this. They have no clue that this is in place. We'd have to police this thing in order to make it in place because the first restriction level here is, what do we have here? It's a odd even time limit, 5 AM to 8 AM and then 5 PM to 8 PM. So that's okay, twice per day. And then it goes to the next level. Wait a minute, I gotta look at the other file. The next level, which is what is this?
So, my question, these follow, you said by the state, but is it the national drought categories?
So there, the memos in here, and then behind that is what Ron was going by.
Okay,
The state.
Yeah, which I think that's the one that says,
okay.
And it doesn't. It's not exact to it. It was modified to just kind of mimic it a little better.
so the thing that I think will never happen is odd even address Mondays and Thursdays only. Odd for odd addresses, and then even addresses Tuesdays and Fridays only. And that's only between the time of 5 AM to 8 AM and 5 PM to 8 PM. I just don't, that's never gonna happen. The customers don't know this. The irrigation clocks are not set up for this. So it's probably something that I think is probably not, is outdated from the state, that got carried over from the state. So if you guys feel, I have a problem with having something on our website that I think will never, ever get implemented. So let's change it to something that we actually did implement the last 2 times that we did put restrictions on, which was just to say, a level 1 is odd even with a time limit twice per day, 5 AM to 8 AM and 5 PM to 8 PM. The level 2 would also be odd even the same way, except it would go down to once per day and that would be in the morning. And if you remember the last time we went through all this, we had discussions, is it better to water in the afternoon or in the morning? And I think it was irrigation contractors were contacted and they said it's definitely better to water early in the morning than it is later in the afternoon. Because in the middle of the summer, 5 to 8 PM, you're still got sunshine and everything going on. Whereas 5 to 8 AM, it's kind of just not as, hasn't been the heat of the day yet and everything. So anyway, so that's the only change I'm thinking. I mean, as far as I understand, we're not. Is there any requirement that we need to follow the state of New Hampshire's guideline on that? I don't know that there is. Do you know any other towns that are implementing any of this?
No, I'm trying to think what drove it at the time, and this was It was done a while ago.
It was probably just using the recommendation from the state, because the state's recommendation is, Mondays and Thursdays for odd numbers, and then Tuesdays and Fridays for even numbers. Or something similar to that, so.
As far as I know, they don't mandate it. Water restrictions, it's up to the water.
Yeah, right,
to do that, so.
right. But as far as like the guideline for what they recommend, I don't think we're required to have to follow it. It's just a guideline, I think, right?
So what it says in the first paragraph of the, that village districts can do their own water restriction.
Yeah, I mean, I really think this is gonna be easier on your staff. I think if you guys, if we go through with this and say, all right, we're putting a level 2 restriction on, we gotta tell all our customers. The odd numbers can only water on Mondays and Thursdays. And even numbers can only water on Tuesdays and Fridays. I don't see any way that they're gonna implement that, because I don't think you can even set that up in a typical irrigation clock that people use. I don't think they can do that. It's set up for odd and even. It's set up for times of day. You can have a 5 to 8 a.m. and a 5 to 8 p.m. And then it's easy to have someone go and change the clock and say, all right, exclude the 5 to 8 p.m. if we get into a level 2 restriction. I just think it's easier to implement, and it's gonna be less. Because then you guys are gonna have to drive around and knock on every customer's door that's irrigating. If there's a even house irrigating on a Wednesday and they're supposed to be irrigating on a Monday and Thursday, you're probably gonna have 2,000 homes to knock on the doors and tell them they can't irrigate and explain. I mean, it's impossible. I don't physically see how this could get implemented. The way it's written now, that's why I think it needs to be changed. We've already encountered this twice, and the procedure we've actually followed is what I'm proposing that we put in place instead of this, so.
I'm fine with
I
it.
think our customers already saw it. They may not have all abided by it, but I think they saw it. So that's the only reason I bring it up, is I just think it matches the reality a little bit better than what we have, so. I don't really have anything more to say about that. So if you want to just have the website changed, and then we can take a peek at it and see that it's done, and we should be good. Yep. All right.
We also need to redo the memo with the policy on it.
Right. So that's, okay, that was in the packet too, right?
We can take care of doing a draft on that.
Yeah, it seems like it's just as simple as changing the website. It's not a big. They both basically say the same thing.
Yeah, I actually didn't look through the policy real detailed here, but
We will just have it match whatever we have for the website.
okay. And I did put a exception in there. Do you remember we voted, there was a company that did power washing. And he was concerned that he was gonna lose a lot of business. And I think we voted to exempt that power washing at one point, and I don't remember if that was in 2019 or 2020.
I think it was 2020.
Yeah,
I think it was, yeah, I think it
Is
was.
that like everyone power washing or professional power
just
washing?
professional power washer, and I actually made it even stronger to say registered with the state of New Hampshire.
Okay,
Cause that, I think we
It's
gotta
not-
give our own customers, our own people that live in our own state the priority. So I just thought I'd throw that in there as well. Yeah, so at level 3 would be no outside water use. Exceptions to restrictions are hand irrigation of crops used for food by residents at a residential property shall not be restricted. Water to sustain animal life shall not be restricted. So I figured we'd add water to sustain animal life and commercial pressure washing businesses registered with the Department of State in New Hampshire. It's being consistent with what we allowed in the past. That's all I'm putting it in there for. Cause that guy will probably, or that company would probably still call us and say, hey, why, you allowed this before. So if we just have it in there, we don't have to keep getting special permission to allow pressure washing businesses to continue. All right, so if you guys are good with that, I'll move on.
I think the next thing is the minutes, since we already did the, oh, no, yeah, the minutes.
Yeah, we got just the minutes, I believe, and those are two of them, one of them from July 17th. And that one was hanging around for a while somewhere. I guess we didn't,
Yeah,
It was tabled 2 months in a row. And then in October, I wasn't here.
Yeah, I think because he wasn't here once or something, we tabled him.
And I don't think we had.
I thought we voted on it, but if you think we didn't, then we can just do it again. It's no big deal. Maybe we-
And I went back.
okay.
Both September and October, August and September were tabled.
All right, I don't have any edits. Everything was good in there unless anyone has any changes to make. We could do these both at the same time if that's something you want to do.
Fine.
All right.
Motion to approve.
All right, motion to approve both minutes by John, and that's for the July 17 and the November 20th, 2023 regular Board of Commission meeting minutes.
Seconded.
Second by Ken. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right,
Aye. John, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right, so that's 4-0-0, no oppositions, no abstentions. We've got the action items all covered. Any old business? All
Nope.
right. Covered that. See, do I got anything in here? Eight, do's and don'ts. All right, yeah, I'm good on that. Any new business?
I do have some new business. Brian and I met with New Hampshire DES and EPA. On 12/12 at well 7 and 8 treatment plant. I had a call from Mike Unger on the 11th.
Huh.
Asking would it be possible on such a notice to have some folks from EPA and DES swing by. They were actually in Hollis touring a small system there. EPA is conducting a technical assistance project to help communities determine the most cost-effective approaches for removing emerging contaminants from drinking water. The initial focus is on PFAS, but other contaminants will be considered. EPA will pay for bottle shipping, training, and analytical costs. All sampling results will be shared the community system. Results will be be used to provide support for design and long-term operational optimization, develop a national database for approximately 50 systems all utilities can benefit. And what they would expect from us would be engage in a long-term sampling project for at least a year, collect samples after initial training, and share water quality design costs and operational data with EPA. So yeah, they came out toward the facility. They were actually, they obviously liked it. It was the well 7-8 green sand, and you get downstairs and look at the vessels. They're snapping their pictures, and it's really every one of our treatment plant has pilot columns in them now.
Right.
And started saying, hey, we got a program, we got money available, and so we're in the process of we want to start doing some piloting to look at
Right.
resins and stuff.
Yep, yep.
So there's some funding out there for that.
Good. Good.
And just a kind of an idea, our PFAS budgeted last year was what, 100 or
113, I think it was.
For testing lab fees.
just
Yeah, wow.
100,000, so.
Huh,
It's
This
a,
year it's 180.
wow.
We've got all the.
All the new
investment
plants now, yeah. Wow.
at Almost $300 a pop.
Huh. So that could relieve some of the testing for the pilot testing or something, some of the
well, we
costs.
have, Underwood looking at different options for piloting right now, different resins that'll feed right into that. Once we have them chosen, then we can. I'm sure there'll be some sort of an application. I still need to apply for it, but they sounded really, it sounded promising. And they, looking
great.
for like 50 or so communities. to do
Wow. Huh, good. I mean, we got 3 plants with those columns in them, right?
it. Yeah, they're all done.
Wow. Well, it's a good segue into something that I went to a Christmas party at UMass Lowell. I'm a alumni there, a grad school over there, and one of my professors was retiring. And I talked to another teacher there, and we got on the subject of the capstone projects that the students do. And I had mentioned to them that, hey, you know, I'm up at MVD in Merrimack, and we've got pilot columns, and would any of the students be interested in kind of, you know, taking the data and doing research and doing a presentation, a paper on that? And I thought maybe it's an opportunity for us to kind of save some costs and having them take some of the data and all that stuff too. So that's a possible option. He told me to contact one of the head of the environmental engineering section over there after the holidays. So I might reach out and see if there's some kind of help that they can provide to us. And I was even thinking if, you know, I don't know who you were thinking of recording all the data. There's a lot of intensive data collection, whether it be some of our staff, maybe we can share some of that burden with some students. And I was thinking maybe it would reduce some of our costs for Underwood if they could sort of just manage the process and work with the students instead of, and I don't know if they were planning on sending Underwood staff to collect some of the data, whether they're coming from Concord or Portsmouth or something, probably more economical to share some of that burden. So it's just another possible avenue we can kind of.
I did ask about engineering costs as well, and he did, I believe he said if they could pick up some of those costs.
Good.
I don't know if we'll pick up all of them, but.
All right. Good. That's awesome. Any other new business?
No.
Just a couple of quick things that I have. I thought it would be important if any commissioners miss meetings, it would probably be helpful to watch the replay, especially coming from our customers' perspective. You know, we're getting a measly $100 a month, and that covers the cost of coming to these meetings and stuff. But if we miss a meeting, if there's really not much else that we're doing that month, I know we have, you know, budget meetings and stuff that's added to that, but it's a good opportunity to catch up on what was discussed at meetings. So I just like to put that out there that if people think that that's appropriate to do, if we miss a meeting, to try and catch a replay of that meeting, at least then we can tell the customers that we're justified in our stipend for that month, even though we missed the meeting. You know, I think it would be a good gesture. So just an idea there.
If somebody doesn't want to sit through the whole meeting, minutes are usually available earlier now. I could send them out to everybody.
Yeah. I think.
It's fun to watch. I used to watch them before I was on.
I don't think I could stay awake watching one.
Yeah. You know, I just, I know, you know, there's been questions in the past that, wait a minute, when do we decide that? And I was like, yeah, that was 3 months ago. We voted on that. Oh, all right. I didn't know, you know, so that's a way to resolve that issue. But I just personally, I missed one meeting. I definitely thought I owed, you know, my position and the customers to watch that meeting.
I just wanted to know what we did when you were gone.
I mean, otherwise, what is $100 for that month? If you do nothing else that month, you don't go to the meeting, you do nothing else that month. I don't think you should get that $100 personally. So that's a way to get the $100 to do what you were supposed to do, to go to the meeting. That's my philosophy. But you guys can take or leave it at that. And I think that's all I had for that. So I think the next thing is superintendent report, right?
Yes. So we had a virtual SALT meeting, November 29th. It was the end of the month. Yeah. With New Hampshire DOT, DPW, stakeholders. Main part of it was really to get the kind of see what the DOT was gonna be doing for their winter maintenance and really to make sure the town was doing, they're comparable. And
Right.
it will be. And then one thing came out of the DPW, DOT was looking for the town to do their brine that was kind of thrown out there, town for whatever reason can't. I know they're looking at Sean to do the brine, and he's currently looking into seeing if it's something he can do.
So you don't know if that was firmed up or anything with the.
Last
the
time I
DOT?
talked to him, he was still looking at his insurance just to make sure he's not gonna
Okay,
take on some added liability for.
yeah.
It seemed like it was a productive meeting. Everyone seemed to be on the same page, so it went, I thought. Other than Don
Yep.
getting cut off.
Yeah, with the Zoom issue, I know.
Then Jamie, Don and I also had another virtual meeting to discuss a couple issues, not really issues, but I've had a couple emails. People from developments in town that have salt restrictions that would like to use salt. So we kind of decided that, at this time, we really can't allow that. Just because we have to get the salt situation under control before that.
Yeah, and in light of the latest graphs, I mean, it's even more,
Yeah.
even stronger about that. Yeah, there was some no salt sites that wanted to use brine and team up with another site that does use salt. And use brine on both properties so that the net amount of salt is reduced, but.
We had done it in the past. That was kind of a scenario we threw out there, that what they were looking for is some sort of relief. They
Yeah,
didn't have anything tied to it as far as, at this time. Another property, but that was kind of thrown around as well. What if we find somebody that kind of share the salt?
yeah,
And try to get reduction, but at this point. It was recommended that we'd have to deny their request at this point because of, we need to get control over it now. The other request was somebody that wanted to use mag chloride. They have a no sodium chloride restriction, not a sand only restriction. So they can technically use mag chloride. And to his point was, I'm set up to use brine. I prefer to use the brine. It has one less chloride than the mag chloride. And it would actually be better for the environment,
Right.
and our chlorides are high as well.
because the magnesium and calcium chloride have 2 chlorides on the molecule, and the sodium only has. Right, so. By switching to that, you're actually making the chloride actually worse.
And the brine is 20%, I believe, is the mixture on the brine. So that was favorable. It makes sense to make that kind of to allow that. Okay, next one is I'm working with Brian on getting the GAC replacement scheduled into Elements, our work order systems. It has a calendar feature with text and email notification as well. And the things that we're looking for, a calendar to get these I guess to track, as well as to plan the GAC change outs. Heard from the low frequency. Keith and I presented the CIP to the planning board on Tuesday, the 5th. Because of the tight schedule, we went over the major capital projects, which the board was fine with. One of the things that did come up was Nelson asked what we're doing about the sodium and chloride, and felt that we could be doing more.
Huh.
Wellhead protection. Wellhead protection area signs were completed 12/5/23. We did salt letters to Amherst and Hollis. Well seven has been cleaned and surged and we're working on it at this time. And pilot test columns have been installed in all the treatment facilities.
Nice,
Planning our pilot testing.
good.
You did a good job at the meeting. I watched it. With the planning board. I didn't watch it live, I watched the replay.
I try and.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but they're playing it already.
Well, the way they do their CIP versus us, like some of the stuff that's like the Pennachuck water and stuff, they're like, well, they're doing it like, it doesn't, the rankings are not the same,
Yeah,
so.
I wasn't expecting a salt question at the,
You're like, I know, cause you were the whole,
Huh.
you would see that word, like, I was like, Ron, this is the salt mitigation.
Yeah,
It's like next year you're going.
I'll have to watch that one and see how that unfolded.
No, you did a good
All
job.
Good.
I gotta run. You guys are making Ken late. I will see you guys next month. Have a
Yeah,
very
have a good
happy
holiday,
holiday.
John.
Good to see you all. If you gotta dock my $100, a couple 250 or something like that, it's okay. But I will be happy to see you all next time. Enjoy
Do
your
what you
evening.
gotta do, John. Have a good holiday, man.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks.
Bye.
But the Merrimack Industrial Metals contract isn't, is Carrie still looking at that?
Yeah, so, the person that requested access, the attorney, we found out is actually legal counsel for TCI, lead local counsel.
No, what?
Oh, no.
Wow.
So they're looking at some things and there'll be discussion
Huh.
and that's.
Uh-huh. All right. I guess with that, if there's any other, since we still have a quorum, we can't officially end this meeting. So I'm glad you stuck around a little while.
I'm like 5 minutes.
Well, there's probably a lot of public and press questions.
Yeah, that's true. Do we have any press in public on the line that we can tell?
Nope.
Nobody on?
No, just the three.
All right, so then next meeting is January. Is it the 22nd?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
no, did we? No, we're not, we
See
don't.
calendar.
Right?
Yeah, we do, because we've done the
The
15th.
15th is a holiday.
Oh, yeah, that's.
It is the 22nd, yeah.
January and February both have a holiday.
It just seems early because the
We
first
have-
is a Monday,
And we
that's
have a
why.
work session on the 17th.
Yeah,
Supposedly.
yes, we do.
Earn you $100 up.
Not in my calendar.
You guys like that one, huh? Hold your feet to the fire. All right, next meeting is January 22nd. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All right, motion by Ken, second by Aaron. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thanks. Have a good holiday, Merrimack.